Hello, everyone. It's me. That's Brandon. My friend Kiwi Talks should be showing up here shortly. Brandon, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Very good. All right. Not as smooth of an intro as I wanted, but hopefully solid. Yeah, we're live. We're live. The podcast is back. I'm gonna go through. I'm attempting some very subtle, slightly different things, but hopefully everyone can hear and see us. Yes, I shaved. I actually didn't intend on people seeing my face so shaved, but yeah, like the other day, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna clean everything off. I felt like it would have been good for my skin, and you know, I didn't expect to see people the next 2 to 3 days, so I think, like in a couple days it'll look like how it looked, but yeah, so. But anyway, here we are. Podcast is back. Like I said, Kiwi Talks will be showing up in a few minutes. So this is my kind of my thought process, right? The podcast, obviously took a good long break. And quite frankly, the way it was going wasn't really fitting my schedule in life right now. Like trying to do it really late at night every week, especially when there wouldn't be a lot of things to talk about. So I am not sure I'm going to go back to doing the podcast on like literally every week basis. Videos are going to come out every day, right? Like this is still my full-time thing. This is still my career path. But like I think with the podcast, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. Still going to do it multiple times a month, maybe like every other week. I don't want to promise that. But what I will do is I'll announce it ahead of time. There'll be a guest lined up each time. There'll be a little bit more time and effort put into it when I do go live with the podcast specifically. And other times I'll just stream something randomly, not necessarily at a set time in the week. Like I've been doing the Metroid Prime 4 hard mode streams, right? I'm going to continue that. And the podcast will still happen maybe 2 to 3 times a month, but I'm just going to space it out a little bit more just so I can put more effort into when I do go live and so I can balance it with my life schedule. And so that's kind of like my thought process with that. And so one of the things I want to kind of do now to kind of improve things is I'm going to dedicate the first half hour or so to Q&A. So it'll just be kind of me talking with you guys in the chat. And then the guest I have lined up will pop in, about that after the Q&A is done. And then we'll focus on the discussion. Maybe between topics, I'll check on the chat very briefly, but it'll be mostly focused on the discussion. And then at the end of the show, if you guys have super chats or questions, we'll focus on that at the end. I feel like that way the quality of the show will be better. And I can address kind of both needs, right? Talking to you guys, answering your questions, getting into those things, doing the speculation based off that, but also making sure the discussion with whoever I have on is just going to be quality. And so that's kind of like the plan. Pretty much, yeah. Hopefully you guys have been able to hear and see me this entire time. Yeah, I am not talking about Animal Crossing with Kiwi Talks. That's not the plan. But yeah, we'll definitely. I mean, if you ask me about Animal Crossing, I'll tell you what I think. So
Thanks.
Now, quick little shout out. I've just been in love with this little remix right here. So let me pause the background. You saw me play it in the intro, right? Share screen. You should be able to hear the audio here. This YouTube channel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Deseto. They've been making a whole bunch of like Nintendo remixes, and like it's fire. It's just fire. It's fire. So
it's so good.
I linked this specific video that you heard in the beginning of the podcast in the description below. This is my new headcanon title. He is a musical genius, and he does jazz, rock, violin, all of it. And yeah, so it's so good. It's so
It is.
freaking good.
The music's good. The art is incredible.
Yeah, I love this. So check out DeSeto's YouTube channel, like his music videos, share them out. He does so much. He's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. It's just fire, bro. It's so good. So strong recommend. Again, this specific music video is linked in the description below. I'm not collabing with him. I just think it's really good, and I wanted to play it for you guys because I've been playing this like crazy lately, and it just makes me like Metroid Prime 4 more, just for the record. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into that Q&A because honestly, I started really late. So yeah, let's do that. Sorry, Silex. You're gonna have to take a break for now with your brilliant jazz afro.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah.
Our ears are getting a real treat.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna pull up the chat right here, and so let's get into that Q&A before Kiwi shows up. Am I still screen sharing?
I don't think so.
I am somehow, but I'm not. Anyway, okay. Yeah, it was just a weird thing. Anyway, yeah, let's do some Q&A, and then Botox Games Weekly Curry Podcast, make it happen. That's gonna be the side podcast, and you're gonna be the first one on. So we can do that for sure. Yeah, Kirby Podcast, it's coming.
Hell yeah.
Wilberforce Booster, Silex is the king of the dance.
King of the dance floor for sure.
Oh yeah, Silex, bro. Like, say what you like. It's just the Silex theme is so good. Like, the backstories, there's certainly room for debate there, but like Silex is cool. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
You know he's hitting some sick moves
for sure. Bo actually added me earlier. Gonna need you all to talk about Kirby Triple Deluxe and Planet Robot. Yeah. The day will come. Having hope. And we see Ruby. It's been forever since we have seen her. Okay. You can see her, but so here's the issue. Right now she's right there laying down on my PC. I can pick her up. She's not gonna be mad, but she's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" I cannot
disturb me.
I cannot adjust my camera, but I'm gonna do it for you. So, and I'll put her right back. She won't. She'll get over it. All right.
Drum roll.
It's showtime.
Oh, the drum roll's not coming through the mic.
It's showtime, baby.
Ding.
There she is.
Cutie. So beautiful.
Ruby. She's like, okay.
Look at the camera, Ruby.
I liked my other spot more.
It was warm up there, bro.
Are you going back? Or are you going to go elsewhere? What's your choice? Where are you going? You can go back up if you want. That's fine. Yeah, she's going back up. Okay. Now I got hair on me, but got a lot of hair on me.
Yeah, she do be shedding.
Frick ton of hair. Good enough, maybe. Okay. So Ruby has made her appearance. She's taken back to her perch. Yeah. I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Oh. Got a new member.
Nice.
Bead Queen Nikki has become a YouTube member. Welcome. Glad to have you. Glad to have you, Bead Queen. Yeah. So, RNL added me earlier. I got my Switch 2 on Black Friday, and I got the one with the bundle. Do you think they should do another bundle with that Zelda remake? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it'd be nice.
Yes.
I
For sure.
want even more bundles for any reason. Bundles are always nice.
Well, I mean, listen, Zelda anniversary stuff, that's,
Oh, imagine the box art too. You get the
mhm.
special box art. That'd be sick.
Yeah, there's some serious potential there. Now,
Maybe even a customized console. Although they haven't done that yet.
yeah, we're gonna talk about the Zelda stuff a little bit later into the discussion. By the way, I don't even think I told you like the plan for tonight's discussion, right? Like if you read the description, you'll know. Maybe based off the thumbnail, you'll know. But I didn't actually announce it. It's like the title just says the podcast is back, right? So this is what we're talking about tonight. What we're talking about tonight is a lot of the big things that are kind of on my mind as of late. So we're gonna talk about our 2026 expectations. We're gonna talk about this latest info about the next open air Zelda game, but then also talk about Zelda's 40th anniversary. Perhaps talk about Monolith Soft's involvement and what they may have next. If it's not Zelda related, we're gonna talk about all that. We're gonna talk about what seems to be some solid evidence for Luigi's Mansion 4 getting announced and probably coming out this year. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Famitsu interview about Metroid Prime 4's development. We're going to talk about what that suggests for Metroid Prime 5. That was actually the main thing that I was talking about with Kiwi Talks behind the scenes that we wanted to do a discussion on. And so we were talking about recording a discussion about that. He was away for the holidays. And so he's available today. And then I was like, hey, what if we just do the podcast? And so that's what we decided to do. And actually, talking about him right now. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, man. Sorry, just sorting out a few things. But yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. How
take your time.
How are you?
I'm good. Good. I was just saying that, I was just basically telling people what the plan is for tonight. And how initially we were talking, we wanted to do like a discussion about the Famitsu interview, and then I was like, you know what, let's just do the whole podcast. I've been meaning to bring it back, so, but I know you're still setting up, so just take your time.
Hey, it's all good. I'm mostly done. I was just trying to sort out audio and stuff. As long as you guys can hear me, okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool.
Good. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing a little bit of Q&A. I'm running a little late on my end, because what happened was, one, it took too long to get set up, but two, I had these two times in my head, and so I scheduled the show for 7:30 live, but I always intended to start at 7, but people had already seen that, like, on YouTube it was scheduled for 7:30, so I was like, ooh, I messed up. So I pushed it up to 7:15, tried to start early, to kind of like, make both things work a little bit. But anyway, yeah, I'll just wrap up our Q&A here, and then we'll get into the topics. Let's see. RNL says, I hope they show us an expansion trailer for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. Some Switch 2 enhancements. Yeah. I don't think they've announced any Switch 2 enhancements for Tomodachi Life yet.
No. I don't think it needs too much, but higher resolution is always nice.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I see a few questions here. These will be the last questions. Then we're going to focus on the discussion. I might go in between topics very briefly, but we'll do some more Q&A at the end. Feel free to send it. Like, if you have super chats, feel free to send them in. I'll have them all on record, and I'll pull them up. So, if you put it in, don't worry, I will get to it. I'm just saving it until that point in the discussion. Space Butler here. Just do what Square is with Final Fantasy VII Remake for Switch 2 and give people the OG to play as well. I'm assuming this is in reference to Ocarina of Time, right? Like to give it the 7 Remake treatment, but also, or are you just talking about 7 Remake? I mean, we're already getting
Ocarina of Time we have on N64 online. Yeah. You can play it there.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding the question, because we're already getting 7 Remake for Switch 2 this month, and you can already get the original version. And there was actually an early purchase bundle where if you get 7 Remake for Switch 2, you will also be given the original for free. I already have the original, so it doesn't make a difference to me. But anyway, I mean, listen, I agree with Brandon though that if we're talking about the Ocarina of Time remake, right? If that's happening, Ocarina of Time's already available on NSO, so that's there already. I guess not everyone technically is paying for the NSO subscription, but I don't know if Nintendo's going to think it's enough value to add as like a part of the bundle. Maybe. Either way, I do love the idea of them going really big on a remake that's more than a remake, right? Which we'll get into that a little bit later tonight. Rose-colored Shadow 508 adds me. In a theoretical Metroid Prime 5, how would you prefer they connect the areas? Go back to Metroid Prime 1 style interconnectivity with elevators? This is so part of it, my perspective on this, and Kiwi, feel free to chime in if you want here, but like there's what I want and what I think can reasonably happen, and then something in the middle, right? I like the interconnectivity of Metroid Prime 1 a lot, but I also recognize that was made in the early 2000s, and that kind of design I don't think is going to go over as well in a modern game. And I think that's probably part of what went to the decision making with Prime 4, but I also don't think that was executed right either. So, I mean, in my ideal world, that's let's say semi-realistic, I think they do need to think about how they can create a Metroid Prime world that kind of fits modern expectations, but also kind of have a little bit of, what made people love the series beforehand. So I do think they need to bring back more interconnectivity, but I also think they're probably going to still find ways to incorporate some level of open exploration, not open world. Let's be clear. A lot of people don't understand the difference. More expansive open exploration. I mean, I think even in Prime 4, you look at that framework, they could have had included subways or pathways interconnecting the different areas under the desert. That would have made a big difference. And so I guess I'm just hoping for a little bit of a middle ground there where there's some interconnectivity. They do have some open exploration, but it's a little bit more densely packed. And there's something that I think Prime 4 does really well is how the environments change as you progress, which makes going through those areas more interesting. I think they need to stick to that. So I guess what I'm asking for is a little bit of everything, while kind of keeping in mind that you don't just going through the same areas repeatedly, like in Prime 1, without any form of fast travel or kind of finding a lot more shortcuts. I don't think that's going to be the right path either. I think it's kind of something in between Prime 4, something in between Prime 1 with more shortcuts and better polish is probably what I envision. I know that it would require a more complex, well thought out answer to appropriately express, but something along those lines is what I kind of think they should do, and I hope they do.
Well, they can't do everything. So you're best to pick one thing and excel at it rather than trying to appeal to everybody. If you try to appeal to everybody, you end up pleasing no one.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to what they decide to do. The thing with Prime 1 that a lot of fans don't realize is that the design is actually quite intimidating to newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, Metroidvanias have been doing it for a long period of time, but just more so in a 2D sense, not in a 3D sense. I mean, Prime was ahead of its time in that way. And I think the thing is with Prime 1 is its level design you don't fully appreciate until you do multiple playthroughs, because you can optimize different routes to go through. Obviously, it's still linear, but there's with the backtracking and stuff, because everything is so interconnected. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more fresh, I suppose, in terms of the optimization of those routes, because it's not the case with Prime 2 and it's not the case with Prime 3. There's a strict path, and that's the path you go down. I personally think they are going to do more of the open world stuff. Personally.
Yeah.
But I think they will look at the flaws of Prime 4 and fix them. Granted, we still don't know how much of the original Prime 4 that was worked on was inherited. That Retro inherited, right, from the original. We don't know how much they got to do brand new. We know that the control beam was inherited from the first prototype. And it's still not particularly clear if the original idea was to do open world and then Retro kind of doubled down on it, or Retro decided to do the open world and then realized partway through, oh crap, we've got a bit of a problem here. So
yeah, I'm using this. I'm basically just turning this into a segue into our first topic. Might as well just, since we're in it, let's just do it now. Yeah, like
sure.
That's the Mitsu interview. What we heard about Metroid Prime 4's development and what this may or may not suggest about Prime 5. That's the general broad idea for this topic. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like that interview. I think some people read it as like Nintendo admitting that there was something wrong with Prime 4. I don't think that interview came out with that intent necessarily, but I do think it's interesting to kind of look at that interview, and I do feel like it gives us some insight. It does kind of sound like that, they didn't scrap the initial Prime 4 entirely and start from zero.
No.
Right? It sounds like Retro Studios came in and they're like, hey, this is what we got. What can you bring to the table? That's kind of what I interpreted from that. And I mean, the cool thing about that is I think we've always kind of wondered, like we've been thinking going into this game, like, okay, so what was the original Prime 4? I guess we kind of learned that this is the original Prime 4 just brought to completion.
Sure. I mean, we never really fully understood like exactly why it got canceled. Like there's a bunch of theories and stuff, but they never said why it got canceled. Like it could have just been Retro Studios showed them an engine that looked and ran so much better than what they were doing. They were like, oh, we should do this instead. Like it may not have been a game design thing, or it may have been a combination of many different things. Well, we don't know. But some of the game design may have been something they thought was really good. So they decided, maybe we should bring that forward still.
Probably a combination of factors.
Well, I thought that it was the fact that it wasn't meeting the bar that Nintendo requires, and from what I understand is it was handled by multiple different studios. There wasn't one studio that was handling everything, and Retro
I think Imran Khan said something about that.
Yeah, like Retro was already assisting on the level design.
Really?
Okay,
yeah,
I did not know that.
Apparently, and then they realized that Retro stuff was the best stuff. And so I think it moved over to Retro because some parts of the game were going well and some were falling very far behind. But we won't know the full details for quite a while. I know people want me to interview Prime 4 devs, but NDAs make that impossible. So it won't be happening anytime soon. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years max. If I'm still alive, we'll see.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens in the future. I like there's a lot of things that that we don't know exactly what Nintendo's expectation was, right? But like, for example, there are not many developers that could have pulled off that open area running at a smooth 60 on the Switch 1.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, so like something as simple as, I mean, it's not simple, right? But literally that fact alone that's a Retro Studios thing. Very few other developers could have pulled that off. And so, Retro, I mean, really Retro Studios is a developer for Metroid Prime 4, like for the Metroid Prime series. I was very disappointed when I love the Donkey Kong Country games. Don't get me wrong. And I'm okay with them doing other projects, but I feel that Metroid Prime should stay with them and they should just kind of expand so they can do multiple projects moving forward.
Do you know the reason as to why they shifted from Prime 3? I know the answer. I'm just
I don't. You don't tell me. So the only thing I remember is that they wanted to try something fresh. That's the only thing in my head about that. But
yeah. So a number of them were already burned out on Prime 2, and it was Iwata that said no, do Prime 3. What happened was there was a very critical person who worked at Retro Studios, Mark Hutchinson. He was the guy that designed the camera system. Pretty much universally loved there. and he died of pancreatic cancer, I believe it was.
Ooh.
Sad.
And then on top of that, core people from Retro left, and so the spirits of the place were quite low, and then they needed to do something different. But it was Michael Calbor specifically that pushed to do Donkey Kong.
It was a very good
some
business move.
some devs were happy about that, some devs were not, and that led to a further exodus of people from Retro.
Yeah.
But now, what happened with Prime 4 is they'd gone so long without doing a Metroid Prime game that a lot of the core Metroid Prime design team was no longer there. Like, there's no one, as far as I'm aware, there's no one on the core design team that was there since Prime 1 and Prime 2.
Yeah,
You've got you've got a couple of there from Prime 3, but most of the devs there on the design side didn't know how to make a Metroid Prime game, and they've been out of the loop for so long that they pretty much had to relearn how to make a Metroid game, which is why they staffed up so majorly at the beginning of Prime 4. And Metroid Prime Remastered was them getting reacquainted with the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now they're in a position where they've basically put themselves, well, in a corner in some ways, because they've staffed up so much, they've built up this production pipeline, that they're essentially now the Metroid Prime studio. Because they've spent so much money getting to this point that I would be shocked if there is not a Metroid Prime 5. And I'm pretty sure Metroid Prime 2 Remastered will be a thing as well, because you've already got the production pipeline there.
Yeah.
Everybody knows their task, everybody knows what they're doing. So if they ended up working on like F-Zero or something, I'd be like, what? Doesn't make any sense, particularly these days with how long game development takes.
Yeah. And so to my point, I'm 100% with you on everything you're saying, right? I mean, it's kind of, we've seen this path, right? Like, I remember the VGC interview where they talked about like half the talent from Prime 3 was still left over at Retro, but we saw them continually hiring a whole bunch of high quality Western developers over these years, right? So yeah, they've spent a lot of time building this infrastructure. And in terms of the Prime 2 point, like, we've even heard from the art book that Tanabe, he wants to remake Prime 2. Like, those are his words from the art book. So, I mean, that's not confirmation of anything, but that plus the pipeline that you described, it bodes really well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just, what it means is that we're gonna get a big boy remaster, right? Like Prime 1, which that's great. I don't mind if Retro Studios does other projects in the future, but what I would want it to be, it would be a sign of expansion, right? Like, you look at Monolith Soft, they have multiple teams working on different projects. If Retro Studios ever gets that big where they can branch off a little bit, sure, but I want their main priority to be they're the Metroid Prime developer.
I think Nintendo will be a little bit resistant to making Retro grow too much, because Retro Studios is already one of Nintendo's most expensive developers, primarily because they're in the United States.
Sure.
So if they're going to expand, they would need to be working on an IP that justifies having that many people.
I mean, maybe what they do,
Prime ain't it.
Maybe what they do is that they expand to be more like, well, you look at Monolith Soft, right? Monolith Soft has expanded and they do a lot of support work. They help out with Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and The Legend of Zelda.
Sure.
And so, maybe that's kind of an avenue to expand, because what that's doing is it's benefiting just the overall Nintendo development pipeline. Maybe eventually that opens the door for other things. But yeah,
I think with Monolith Soft, it's an apples and oranges approach. Like, with Monolith Soft, for starters, they're in Japan. Secondly, like, their studio is quite close to Nintendo headquarters, right? They all speak the same language, same culture, everything. When you're working with a foreign studio, the culture is completely different. There's been clashes with Japan and Retro for so long now, because of the different approaches to things. So I could see Retro assisting somewhat, but I can't see them ever becoming a Monolith Soft type of studio where they're assisting a lot on Nintendo's internal stuff.
I mean, we remember they did do the Mario Kart 7. They did like what? Like
They did.
Was it half the tracks, if I'm not mistaken? In Mario Kart 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true, and they did do that. But that was only a one-time thing.
Right. We haven't heard about anything else.
Yeah. I don't want it to sound like Nintendo doesn't appreciate retro studios, because it does. They really, really value that studio, especially their engineers and their artists. Like I know with the art team, they very rarely get any direction from Nintendo. The only time they get direction is on character artists, characters, specifically legacy characters, Donkey Kong, Samus, Dixie Kong, whatever, because they're very particular about how they should look and how they should be animated. But I know with, like, say, the Federation Troopers in Prime 4, that was all retro. They could do whatever they want in terms of how they designed them, how they moved, that sort of thing. Because they know how good Retro's art team are.
And I'll say from that perspective, I think Retro's as the best they've ever been. Like I would say the art design in Metroid Prime 4, the boss enemies, the just the environments, like that's peak Metroid in my opinion. So I have full faith in that art team.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that Metroid Prime 4 is the best looking Nintendo game ever.
Yeah,
personally, and I think
my
issues with my issues with Metroid Prime 4 mainly come down to its level design. But I think from an arts perspective, from a technical perspective, the sound design, the music, amazing,
and
all top notch.
Yeah, we're on the exact same page. What was that exact same page? And I do wonder, like with the level design. That's kind of the big question, right? Did this, let's call it challenging development period, cause this level design divisiveness, right? To put it, I guess nicely, right? Because literally what we do understand is there was a changing of people involved, right? So people are gonna have different ideas, and so if you don't have a cohesive vision from the beginning, I think you even posted about it. You shared a clip from one of your shows.
Yep.
You need to have a cohesive vision, and if you don't, the level design, that if that's not planned from the beginning, and with a clear set path in mind, it's gonna create issues.
Well, you can have a clear plan at the beginning, but it can still, I suppose, you can still run into curveballs, or what you think would work doesn't actually work. So maybe the idea of an open world they pushed and they proceeded to go through with it. And then
it's not open world.
Partway they realized that's like, oh, okay, actually, this isn't working out as well as we thought it was. There could be technical constraints on the Switch 1 end as well that could further play into this. But level design is the most important thing, in my opinion. I think if you can have art that's not that great, you can have like frame rate drops, you can have a lame soundtrack, but you can look past that if it's fun, right? If the design is great. But if the design is poor, then no matter how good the art is, or if it runs at 120 frames per second, or the soundtrack is just awesome, it's still not as enjoyable.
Yeah. But I guess, let's just, you've already mentioned that you think Prime 5 is probably needs to happen. Do you have any doubts? Do you think it's happening quickly, or are we waiting another 8 years?
I don't think it'll take 8 years. I think 8 years was due to a number of reasons. First off, Retro had to up staff. They had to upskill. There was a lot of training involved. There was a lot of contracting and outsourcing involved. There was COVID on top of that. And I believe Texas had some sort of power outage that affected them as well.
Very bad freeze.
So there was like a domino effect of bad stuff that happened.
Do you think that
So,
impacted the
I
quality of
don't
the
think it'll
game,
take
or
8
just
years.
how long it would like specifically for Prime 4? Do you think all these things just made it take Prime 4 longer, or did they perhaps even impact the overall quality of the game?
I think it was both. Personally, I can't see it being 8 years. I would say
No.
4 to 5, possibly 5.
Yeah,
But they're going to have to do something radical with Prime 5.
they're gonna
And
have to.
yeah, I think they're going to have to.
Okay,
Because they even said it in the interview, right? Prime 4 is a game stuck in time. And I think after 18 years, and rightfully so, fans were expecting a revolution. And what they got was an evolution.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it
that's
very
the
much
number
feels
one
like a
complaint.
direct sequel to Prime 3.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was kind of the number one complaint I heard when the trailers were starting to come out. It's like, okay, what makes this different from Prime? And there wasn't too much that actually made it different than the other games. Obviously, there's the desert, but people didn't really end up liking that. So it's kind of like everything that was different, people thought was worse. So
Right. Yeah, it's not like Breath of the Wild where the open air format was kind of its big selling point, right?
yeah,
The desert and
getting
Prime
rid of all the
4
conventions, as they said.
Yeah,
I actually think
desert
the
and Prime 4
desert-
kind of was divisive. It wasn't a
I-
big selling point, I guess. I mean, it could might be to some, but not to everyone.
Like the desert, I can see what they are attempting to do with the desert. You can see small snippets of what they wanted to do, but maybe they couldn't because they ran out of time or technical constraints maybe on Switch 1. But I mean, I like the shrines thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
but
it.
there
So
just
cool.
wasn't enough of it. And what I heard, and I heard this for ages, and this is how easily like intel and Chinese whispers can be misconstrued and stuff. Because I'd heard for a while that there were underground sections in the desert for Prime 4. That's what I heard, like underground sections. So in my
weren't
head, I
wrong.
took that as like, oh, okay. And this was back in like 2023, I think I heard this. There was
Sure.
underground sections or something in the desert. So I took that as like, oh, okay. And this was after Tears of the Kingdom came out. So I was like, oh, okay, they're going to do something similar to The Depths. But underground sections was literally just underground sections.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, the Great Mines is located in the desert, and it is all underground. It's probably not what you had and what you thought, but technically, it's one giant underground area that you access from the desert. And then, yeah, the shrines you go underground as well, but
Yeah.
they're 1 to 3 rooms.
But essentially, so if you look at the loading screens or the loading in Metroid Prime 4, so each of the biomes, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's Fury Green, Vault Forge, or Great Mines, they basically act like teleporters, right? And so there's a loading screen because you are essentially teleporting from this spot to this spot.
Sure.
And the loading screen is to load the area. With the
Yeah.
shrines, not so much, right? Because you stand on it, it goes underground, and then it's basically connected to the desert, as opposed to the Great Mines, where it's essentially you're moving to another area.
Yeah, it's a new area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I imagine that even when there is still an animation, right? When you load in, when you go down, it's just a lot shorter. There's not as much to load. You're not loading a whole area. You're loading 1 to 3 rooms.
Yeah.
So they can make it look seamless, which is cool. But you touched on how there could have maybe been hardware limitations, and this is something I've thought about as well. Like there were a lot of concerns over these years that their project was taking so long that they would just move on over to Switch 2, but they could not actually do that because they promised this game for Switch 1 owners. They just couldn't. Even and what's interesting though is we've seen, at least I'm basing this purely off eShop listings, right? So obviously that's not the full picture, but based off eShop listings, the Switch 2 version is doing a lot better than the Switch 1 version.
Yeah, which makes sense because obviously on Switch 2 there's still not a lot of new games, right?
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see how it sells. But yeah, time will tell. I think it was a good call though to release it on both.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Optically,
view
it
this
would-
as like a
yeah.
proof of concept. So they've kind of sorted everything out. They've worked out what works and what doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Prime 4 was their equivalent of Mercury Steam's Samus Returns moment.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And then, so when Mercury Steam went on to do Metroid Dread, they took all of the criticism on board and fixed it. Right?
Yeah.
Every
Right.
single thing that was critiqued in Samus Returns, they fixed in Dread. So I'm sure Retro will look at Prime 4, all the feedback and everything, and be like, okay, we need to fix this, we need to fix that. And I'm sure they were aware of some of this stuff before it was even released anyway. I do hope they do patches. They do need to patch this game, 100%.
We see Nintendo do that with a lot of their games. It's very normal to patch games. Maybe patch the green energy, maybe patch how the characters assist you a little bit. Like there are things they could patch that could probably affect a few review scores a little bit. Yeah, but I want to stick to something you brought up. You brought up the comparisons to Dread, and I just there's just something that I've seen people say online that kind of eats at me. I don't think it's. I mean, I just disagree. And that's people arguing that Mercury Steam should make the next Metroid Prime game, and I'm like, no.
Anyone who's saying that doesn't understand game development at all. They just don't.
It's
Mercury Steam
fundamentally different.
is not equipped to do that.
It's not close.
No,
No.
and it's
There's not. I don't think there's really many The reason this took so long and the reason this was so hard is because there's not many people who can make Metroid Prime. It's too. I mean, Metroid Prime. It's kind of. We have such high expectations for Metroid Prime, right? It's technically demanding, right? It's the expectations from an artistic perspective are obscene. Something that I like, for example, Mercury Steam. I actually really like Dread, and there are some songs in there that I enjoy, like Barenya, for example. But the music in Metroid Dread is not on par with the Metroid Prime games. Like the music,
because they handed the composing to like the B team, right? Yamamoto-san and Hermano-san were not involved with the soundtrack at all. In fact, the only good tracks that I remember from Dread are the stuff that is essentially remixed.
yeah,
Like from Super Metroid. Ironically enough, the two things that I greatly dislike about Metroid Dread are the soundtrack and the environmental art. And those are two things that Metroid Prime 4 excels at.
Mercury Steam and Retro Studios should just collaborate.
Well, that would be interesting. An American studio and a Spanish studio with a Japanese company's oversight.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but it would be interesting for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page here. Like, I might be a little bit higher on Prime 4 than you are. I really enjoyed the game. I recognize that there's a lot of room for improvement. It's not as good as Prime 1. But to me, it's in line with Prime 3, which I also enjoyed. I think maybe
put it on the same level as Prime 3. Interesting. Like if I had to rank like the games, the mainline games. So let's say if I put Super Metroid at number 1 and Metroid Other M at number 10, excluding the spin-offs and the OG Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, I'd probably put Metroid Prime 4 in 7th.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think
what is that? Where do you place Prime 3 then?
I put Prime 3 probably 5th. I think Prime 3 is better than Prime 2, personally.
Okay.
Primarily because of pacing.
It doesn't even sound like we disagree that much because 5, 7, I'm saying in line, it's around there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Prime 3 is more polished. This is based off my memory. I may have to go back and play the game, right? Obviously, recency bias is involved with all of us. They could go in either direction. But my take on Prime 4 is that, and I think this has been actually a common point brought up in a lot of reviews, the highs are super high, but it has some weird choices that do drag the game down a little bit. And so for me, I would say the highs in Prime 4 go well beyond Prime 3. But Prime 3 is an overall more polished game. And so they're close to me in terms of how much I enjoyed them. Something I think Prime 4... something I think Prime 4 does exceptionally well. And quite frankly, this is something that I don't think, and maybe it's just a personal thing for me and how, and I mean, it is, but I think a game needs to end extremely well. Story's one thing, but I'm talking boss fight. But the final boss fight is so important to how a game ends, in my opinion. And I think Prime 3 shat the bed with that, unfortunately.
Do you know it was redesigned like 4 times?
I think I actually heard about that from you.
Yeah. I agree. Like the final boss fight in Prime 3 isn't great. I think one of the things I like about...
It's an okay boss, it's not as an ending boss.
Yeah, but I feel with Prime 3, out of all the Prime games, it's the one that has the best pacing. It's the only one where they nailed the fetch quest. Like, they got it right at the end. Especially in subsequent playthroughs, because you know where to put the energy cells and everything. So it's very, very like this. Obviously, the intro is it drags a little bit, but once you get into the groove of the game, I think it's pretty good. I do knock points off Prime 4 because it doesn't have screw attack. I'm like, why?
Oh.
Why not?
They're saving it for Prime 5.
You could, well, maybe, but like they already had the framework there, right? They'd already built the camera and the systems for Prime 2 and 3 to include the screw attack. Even if they included it as like an optional upgrade in the desert, just as something cool. It was just like, I was so surprised when I didn't see it because it's like one of the most iconic upgrades. I know it wasn't in Prime 1 because it was due to time constraints and technical constraints, and they couldn't quite work out how to do it. But and that's another thing I like about Prime 3. It's the only game in the series where you get the screw attack quite early.
Yeah, and it's fun to just fly around with a screw attack. I'm with you there. Yeah. But I'm very optimistic about the future. I think Prime 4 got too much hate. Criticism. There's a lot of criticism that's deserved, and I think Retro Studios is going to take a lot of feedback. And now that they have infrastructure, there's no reason to think that the next game is not going to be. I mean, of course, there's reason. Like some people are gonna doubt it until it happens, right? But I think you and I, right, we have enough reason to be optimistic. This next game's going to improve on Prime 4.
Sure, I think. Look, a lot of the times with these games, where you're having this long ass wait, it comes down to a whole expectations versus reality, right?
Yeah.
And I don't knock any fan that's disappointed with Prime 4 because they had to wait 18 years for this. And in their minds, because Nintendo had done a revolution with like Zelda and a number of their other IP, I think people were expecting that for Prime 4, myself included. And so you can go in and be disappointed, but I think if you take the game for what it is, I think you can still enjoy it. I mean, people who are saying it's like a 3 out of 10 is just ridiculous. I would probably give it a 7. If they patch the stuff that I think needs to be fixed, I would probably push it up to an 8.
Okay. Yeah. I try to avoid number scores because I just think I just think they're arbitrary.
They are, but they matter to some people. So if I had to assign it a point system,
sure,
then I would probably go in that direction.
So, like for example, there's that Edge magazine review that gave Prime 4 a 4, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And so they may have issues with the game, and I'm not trying to take away from the issues with the game, but I think someone looks at a score and they look at that score and they compare it to like Superman 64, and that is just an obscene comparison. It's unfair, right? Like, personally, right? I think Prime 4 is just leaps and bounds better than Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment, and Pokemon Legends ZA. But if we just base it off of review scores, they're about the same. And so to me, that doesn't make sense to me.
I think also what makes it worse is that I think now it actually has the exact same score as Metroid Other M.
Which does not make sense. And I'm actually an Other M defender. Like, I don't think the story's great, but I think if you just play the game for the gameplay, it's actually fun. It has issues.
We will definitely agree to disagree there, but okay.
You don't think there's anything about Other M that's fun. Nothing.
No, I don't think
garbage.
It's a fun game at all. I don't.
Oh.
The art
we'll
direction.
disagree.
The art direction I like. I don't like the controls. I don't like the gameplay. There's like little to no exploration. The soundtrack is bad. The changing where you go into first person and you fire it and stuff. I mean, and that's without even including the terrible writing and the story and like butchering Samus's character. But I just don't think it's a fun game. I mean, that is a game I would probably give a 4. 5 if I'm being nice.
Well, you're definitely being. I think Other M is definitely not a. It's definitely the worst 3D Metroid game. It's not close. Maybe
it doesn't.
I mean,
it
actually,
doesn't play like a Nintendo game either.
I mean, maybe Other M is just straight up the worst Metroid game. Probably.
I don't know, man. I can't.
What's
to
worse?
be honest, I can't
What's
play
worse?
the original Metroid 1 and Metroid 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Those games for their times were probably better games, but if we compare like just playing them now, I agree with you there. But otherwise, yeah, there's no other like Metroid Prime Pinball is way better than Other M.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not saying Other M's a great game. I'm just saying as a kid who played it at like 15 for like $7 because the game did not. You could get it super dirt cheap, right? Because like no one cared about the game. It was a fun summer playing that, but there were frustrating parts like the decision to hold the Wii remote sideways and then change the first. Like it seems like a neat idea, but in practice, it made the experience uncomfortable to say the least. And the Where's Waldo moments were not good.
Yeah.
They're not
I
good.
mean, there's one of the big things with Metroid compared to other Nintendo franchises is I think there's just a major disconnect between how Nintendo perceives Metroid and how fans perceive Metroid, right? There's just this huge clash there because they tend to do things that don't really fit. Like, I think for the most part, fans compare Metroid to Alien, right? It was heavily inspired by the Alien movies.
Yeah.
But it seems like increasingly they're trying to turn Metroid into Star Wars. Right? You're starting to. I'm starting to see Star Wars influence. It was quite prevalent.
Did you see my ending analysis video by any chance?
No. I've been on holiday, bro.
Oh no! I don't feel bad. I only asked because in that analysis, I make it a comparison to Star Wars.
Oh, do you?
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not from what you're thinking, but I made the argument that Silex might be an Anakin Skywalker. Hear me out. I don't want to spoil the ending too much, but let's just say potentially Samus is not the chosen one. Silex is the chosen one. And even though he may be kind of a douchebag, he still ultimately helped to save the legacy of the Lemorn, because if it was not for Silex, Samus never would have found herself there to get the memory fruit. Anakin Skywalker ended up fulfilling the prophecy by balancing the Force, but not in the method he thought he would.
Okay. I personally think that's a bit of a reach, but okay, we can go with that. We can go with that theory.
It's just interesting that Silex finds himself in the tower, like, but that's
I consider that a bit of a mess personally. With Silex, like the whole story, there's a lot of weird stuff. You can tell that it doesn't really come together cohesively. Silex is just kind of there. So, because I know how this works, right? So Tanabe comes up with the main story. And then the core writing is done by Retro, right? So the general outline of the story would have been Tanabe, and then Retro...
They fill in the details.
Freedom somewhat to, I suppose, go deeper with that.
Sure.
Yeah, but like Silex is just kind of there, and the ending was kind of weird from a story perspective. I didn't think the writing was great. Granted, I think if you go into a Nintendo game expecting good writing, expecting Rockstar writing or Naughty Dog writing, I think it's probably the wrong way to go. That's not their bread and butter. That's not the thing that they focus on. But yeah, a lot of it just didn't really make sense. And now they're saying in the Famitsu interview that the timeline is split now, and it takes place after Super Metroid. And I'm like, what? It's just
I don't think it's so much that the timeline is split. It's just that they chose space-time traversal so they can kind of ignore the other considerations.
Yeah, I think they're basically they want more freedom to do whatever they want, right? Because with the Zelda games, they can do whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think it's just a good move. That way they pay attention to the timeline, but then they put themselves elsewhere in the timeline, so they don't have to worry about it. Which makes it a lot simpler. My hope, and there is some evidence to suggest so, but that doesn't mean it confirms, right? Evidence is not proof, right? There is evidence that they have more going on with Silex's backstory.
Yeah, there's a Bible. Yeah, there's literally a Metroid Bible with all this information, including about Silex. But I mean, the kind of weird thing where he's like, with the ending, right? I don't want to go too much into detail.
Yeah, because some people haven't played to the end, so it's not.
Yeah, but the ending, like the 100% ending,
yeah,
it seemed like kind of weird in terms of the. How can I say this? Why he hates Samus and the Federation.
It seems contrived.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of like they needed to show a little bit more reason. Like, it's not enough. I think it actually kind of also goes a little bit into what we were talking about earlier, how we waited so long for this game. There's been a lot of expectations built up about a lot of things, including like Silex and his backstory, because like they've been building this up, right? Like they had him following Samus at the end of Prime 3. They had him stealing the Metroid and Federation Force. All for that to culminate into what we got doesn't feel satisfactory. I agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I have to hope there's, I mean, like if you look at the Silex's logbook entry, like there's details there that subtly hint that there might be more to the story, but that we won't know until they do it.
Yeah.
So
I think they just could have come up with a better reason than what we saw in the ending credits. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I
have no problem with what we saw. I just think there needs to be a little bit more to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Like, if there's an event before that we learn about for Silex that kind of gets this thing, so that's why he's kind of bent in this direction. Like that can be, like what's the phrase that the path to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like it would be way more interesting if he actually starts off as kind of a good guy, just maybe with some minor behavioral issues, but one thing leads to another. Like that's good storytelling, right? But are they going to do that in a Nintendo game? We'll see.
I wouldn't even assume that Silex will be in Prime 5. I wouldn't just assume that's the case. They might go in a completely different direction, for all we know.
I would think that would be a bad move. I'm not saying he has to be the main. I don't want to. I mean, it's evident that Silex can still be involved after Prime 4, right?
He can.
I'm not saying he has to be the main villain in Prime 5, but I think he needs to be involved in some level. Otherwise, that would just be. It just wouldn't make sense from a story connecting point. Like it just wouldn't. It'd be bad. I mean,
well, they could take care of Silex in like a spin-off or something. I'm just saying I wouldn't just assume that Prime 5 will have Silex in it. It also depends on where in the timeline they decide to go, and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective is that Prime 5 they're already working on it because they're following up Prime 4. Like my thinking is that they already have it in mind what they want to do to an extent. but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
Yeah.
I still
By the
don't
way,
think they would have started production on it, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, when do you think it's coming out?
when do I think it's coming out?
Yeah.
2030, maybe?
I was gonna say 2029. 4 to 5 years, I think, is good. 2 to 3 seems extremely optimistic, but any more, I think, would be, you're losing momentum.
Consider how long Nintendo games are taking now. Remember, Mario Kart World took 8 years. Donkey Kong Bonanza took 8 years.
Yeah, I don't think but
have you seen the credits?
It took 8
4?
years.
There's 1,000 people that worked on it.
Oh, a lot of people involved. Donkey Kong Bonanza took 8 years. Mario Kart World took 8 years, but that wasn't their sole focus during those 8 years. So, I mean, I think it's Nintendo's in a position right now where they sit on games. They put games on the back burner. Look at Pikmin 4, for example. Like we had in 2015, Miyamoto told us the game was nearly done. Comes out 9 years later. And they explained that, they decided to change. They changed plans with Pikmin 4, right? And so they put it back and they re-examined things, and then they came back and finished it years later. So, I mean, I think it's just there's a lot of moving parts, right? But if we're assuming Retro Studios is only focusing on Metroid Prime 5, I think 4 to 5 years is a very reasonable expectation.
Also, something to consider is third-party support on Switch 2 is off to a great start, right? So this gives Nintendo a bit more freedom and a bit more leeway to basically take a step back and take their time on games now, right? Because they're taking longer to make. So if third parties are filling in the gaps, I think that helps them. It gives them a little bit of a reprieve, I guess you could say. I think you're optimistic in 2029, but I think 2030.
We're talking about the difference of a year or so,
Well, yeah, and also QA depends how much or how long they spend on QA.
I mean, they might have wanted Prime 4 to come out a lot sooner, but I remember hearing about quality assurance testing in 2023.
Yep.
I mean, QA and stuff and just concepting. I mean, we thought Tears of the Kingdom was going to come out pretty quickly after Breath of the Wild because sequel set in the same world, same engine, and that game took forever because they went really high concept with it, right? They wanted to push out the boat, and that kind of stuff takes a lot of brain time. You got to think about these things.
For
sure.
Really
the bigger the game is, the more the testing that's required. Yeah.
Especially with the level of polish that Prime games have.
Yeah, Brandon, I think you did a good job of bringing up Zelda. We can move on to that. But what were you going to say, Kiwi?
I was just going to say that from a technical standpoint, Prime 4 is brilliant, right? 4K, 120 frames per second, doesn't drop a frame.
Yeah. Beautiful game on Switch 1
I didn't
and 2.
encounter any glitches, nothing, right? So they hit it out of the park from a technical standpoint.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to mention regarding Metroid before we move on?
No, I don't have anything else to say, other than the fact that I hope to be doing a review of Metroid Prime 4 with some of the OG Prime devs in the near future. Hopefully end of Jan, early Feb, but it all depends on when they finish the game.
Yeah, and you actually put out something similar you did it with for Donkey Kong not too long ago.
That took ages though. I was supposed to do that in August, and we didn't do it till early December.
Yeah. Hopefully this has a quicker turnaround.
Well, yeah, it all depends on when the devs finish these games and when they're free and when I'm free. Yeah.
I mean, I think that could do really well because I think a lot of people will be very curious how they feel about this game.
Yeah, I've heard some things already, but I won't spoil anything. I'll wait for the review that I do. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to Zelda. So it's Zelda's 40th anniversary. And there's a lot of Zelda talk right now. There's a lot of things going on. There's rumors and things. But I'm going to start with what I think is probably a true leak. Are you guys familiar with Special Nick from the Xbox Era podcast?
No.
Okay.
Somewhat.
All right. So Special Nick from the Xbox Era podcast is from the Xbox Era podcast, right? He's been in the industry for a good long while, friends with a lot of journalists and insiders. And he was doing a podcast that came out like about a week ago at this point with Jeff Grubb. For those that don't know, Jeff Grubb from, I believe, GamesBeat, who also has his history of reporting on things. But Special Nick, obviously, it's an Xbox podcast, right? But still a Nintendo fan and just is privy to inside information. And sometimes during the Xbox Era podcast show, they have a rumor segment, right? He's not trying to like hard advertise this for clicks. It's just they do a rumor segment an hour or two into the show, and he'll bring up some things occasionally about Nintendo that he's heard. And in my history of covering him, what I have observed, the 3 times he's talked about Nintendo in the past, each and every time has been 100% accurate. The first time was when he talked about hearing about Metroid Prime 4 and how it would have big areas, right? He described basically what we've seen from Prime 4. And so that part is accurate, but maybe, it's a little vague. Fine. Next thing reported on was literally the pricing details, the month release window, and the Mario Kart World bundle for Switch 2 before Nintendo announced any of those details back in January. All 100% spot on from his source. And then after that, he talked about Mario Galaxy 2 coming around. Well, he assumed, he didn't hear that about this part, but he heard that Nintendo's remastering Mario Galaxy 2. He presumed for the 40th anniversary. 100% spot on. Mario Galaxy 2 was remastered, not in a big way, but it was remastered, enhanced resolution, enhanced textures, HDR support, changed around controls for Switch 1 and Switch 2. And so literally all the things that Special Nick has talked about regarding Nintendo from his source, 100% accurate. And so, I'm very much inclined to believe that when you hear something about Nintendo, there's a good chance it's coming from someone who would actually hear something legitimate. And so he said something regarding the next Zelda project. He hasn't talked about Zelda 40th anniversary stuff. He assumes Nintendo will do something for the anniversary, but that's not based off inside information that he's reported on. But what he has heard about is the next open air project, the next mainline Zelda game. And so I noted down what he said here about the game. Brandon, have you heard this part yet?
I don't think so.
I know I mentioned it to you the other day.
I think, yeah, but I don't remember all the details. Yes, okay. I do recall we talked about it. Though.
All right, so this is what he said, though, right? It's going to be in the same engine with enhancements. The name that was tossed around is, he's not saying this will be the name, but he was just kind of wondering. Tears in reality. There's going to be cross-dimensional puzzles. This would be kind of like, the idea is kind of like, Breath and Tears have those mechanics that are, their abilities are given early on that have a wide variety of application in this open environment. You could do things in any order you choose, right? So these cross-dimensional puzzles are supposed to be kind of like that next leap in thought there. And there are 2 examples brought up with how these abilities would work. One is brought up how there could be like a bull that's chasing in one parallel realm dimension. It hits a target, which would then unlock a mechanism in the other realm that you're in. Think maybe something along the lines like Portal, perhaps. Another example is brought up is that you can have a room without any water, and then in one realm, one dimension, and then in another dimension you have water. You can transfer that water over to fill up the room, and objects that would be in that room would be risen to the surface. And so those are the examples brought up. That's what he has heard about this project. Essentially, it's the same engine with enhancements and cross-dimensional puzzles. That to boil it down very simply. Well, I will say, some people I've noticed don't have a great understanding of what an engine is. Same engine does not mean same art style. It does not mean they're going to do a third game in the same version of Hyrule with the same characters, same art style. It's that's not how it works. It's the underlying structure, the technology they built for Breath and Tears. they're building upon that, but it can still have a completely new art style, completely new characters and story and setting, which personally I'm assuming, but all we know is that they're building off the same engine with enhancements and cross-dimensional puzzles. So that's the leak.
I'm skeptical.
Why is that?
Well, one, the name for starters. Nintendo doesn't finalize names until right near the end.
To be clear, I didn't. That was a name he was speculating based on what he was told, not so much that
they're
that
not
is
going to
the
call
official
it
name.
Tears of the Reality or whatever. That's a terrible name.
That's not leaked.
Definitely not the name.
That's not leaked info. The leaked info is
hold on.
same engine with enhancements and cross-dimensional puzzles.
Maybe. But the cross-dimensional puzzles could just be shrines, or is it in the overworld too?
I mean, I think that would be kind of the big thing, right? Imagine like having not so much a portal gun, because they probably wouldn't use a gun, but being able to have two pockets that you can.
This reminds me of a horror game that I believe Bloober Team made for Xbox, where there's like two different realities on screen at once, and you manipulate one to do things in the other, but I'm forgetting the name.
It could also be like Light World, Dark World, past, future, what they've done before, but within an open air framework where perhaps it's a seamless transition or simultaneous connection, right? Because in A Link to the Past, you have to literally, it's like going to another area, right? And sometimes when you do things in one area, it can lead to changes in the other, but it's not like you're doing, it's not like Breath and Tears where you can move around something in real time and it changes, right? These are scripted events in those past games. I think the idea here would be not even necessarily scripted events.
Right, it's all real-time physics-based stuff.
Exactly.
The Medium is the game I was thinking of. This sounds very much like that, if anybody has played or seen that game. Very similar concept from what I understand.
I'm still skeptical that it's true, though.
Sure.
Nintendo keep Zelda under lock and key. Like, it is extremely difficult to get any intel on Zelda.
I mean, we didn't
I
hear
should know,
hardly
because
anything
I've tried.
about Tears of the Kingdom.
So this early on to get that sort of info, I don't know,
well,
man.
He had info on Metroid Prime 4, but that's from Retro.
But
he had
Metroid
info
Prime
about
4 was made in America, right? It's not that difficult to get info on Metroid Prime 4 or to
Switch
get
2
info.
launch plans.
What's that?
The Switch 2 launch plans, pricing, bundle,
Yep,
Mario Kart World bundle.
That can come from Nintendo of America. You can
And
speak to
Mario
marketing
Galaxy
people.
2 Remaster probably was not. That was made by
That was made in the US.
What was the name of the studio?
Was it NST? Nintendo?
Yes. Nintendo Software Technology. So, I mean, to your point, there's none of that is necessarily from internal Japan, but, one thing can leave. All I'm saying is that he has gotten everything
He's been
correct.
right before, so you're assuming he'll be right again.
I'm assuming he has a great chance to be right.
Okay. Well, we're
Because
not going to know for a while anyway. So
yeah,
but I'm still skeptical. But time will tell.
Yeah,
time will tell. I think just knowing how hard it is to get intel out of Japan. Yeah, I'm.
We've gotten Zelda leaks before, though. It's not. It does happen.
Yeah, it does happen, but that's primarily when other parties start being involved, like Nintendo of America or something like that.
I think we've gotten leaks from voice actors.
Yep, but it's still too early to be getting that info. Just
absolutely. I mean, that wouldn't do voice acting probably until like a year or two before it comes out, right? Like, yeah, we're years away.
It depends. Nintendo games, like with something like Final Fantasy, voice acting would be done very early on. Same with Rockstar. With Nintendo, not so much because they don't prioritize story first. That comes way later.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, I don't think voice acting would be something.
I don't think it's fair to say that only people in Japan would know. I think there's probably some conversation amongst certain people internally that can, get out the country. But to your point, I mean, I still agree with your ultimate point that like it does decreases the chances, right?
Well,
yes.
Well, what I'll say to you is, so yes, there'll be people outside of Japan that know, but it would be a small smidgen, like a small, tiny amount, minute amount of people that know. And if something gets leaked, you can immediately nail who the people are that leaked it, right? Which is why I'm so cautious about ever saying stuff about Nintendo internally, because depending on the info that you're revealing, you could potentially, well, one, you could be in a lot of trouble, but you could also damage relationships with other people that provided you that intel, especially early on when not that many people outside of Japan would know. There'll be people that know, but not that many. Yeah. And if this is legit and this is true information, it wouldn't be hard to find out who leaked it, because there would only be like, I don't know, 15 people that know.
Well, so it's one of those things we're not going to know until it happens.
Exactly. So, well, we can refer back to this in like, well, I mean, when will it come?
It's one of those things where it's going to be so long we're not going to remember. It's just not. Yeah, I think Special Nick is pretty reliable, so I definitely think it's worthy of discussion. But I mean, entertaining the idea, none of this is surprising to me. Like, let's say it's all hearsay, right? That none of it is legitimately who obviously they're going to continue the Tears of the Kingdom format. That's been the most successful Zelda's ever been. Like, there's no denying. I mean, they've already indicated that in interviews, right? This is not groundbreaking information. The only real surprising thing is just the cross-dimensional puzzles, which, you know, they're gonna figure something out that's gonna be a new puzzle mechanic, right? So that's obviously one avenue. What I've thought about, you know, with this idea, there's a couple things that come to mind. If they go in this direction, to me, it screams the need for the hook shot to return. Why? Because if you were creating connections to other rooms, right, in different dimensions, you will literally have the option to pull things from other rooms. It's just kind of like the clock. So what I'm getting at is, like, you know how in Breath you have the 4 core abilities, and Tears of the Kingdom you have the 4 or 5 core abilities. They could, if creating cross-dimensional pockets is one, having a claw shot like device could be another. Like, not exactly the hook shot or claw shot from the past, but something that has the ability to latch on to grab things and pull you, that has a wide variety of applications. Something that maybe could take on the role of Ascend. I don't think they should do Ascend again, personally, because I think that's kind of, it breaks too much level design up. It makes it a lot harder to make good dungeons if you can just use Ascend to break the dungeon. So something like a claw shot would be a nice in-between. They would also have nice interplay with cross-dimensional puzzles. So that's my thinking on that. That if they're doing one, the other would also kind of be a really nice complement.
That's plausible. That could happen. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different directions they could go, but you're 100% right. They're not going back to the old Ocarina of Time model. That's gone. No, it's not going to happen. And I know Zelda fans will cry and moan, like, we want the old format back. But if you look at the original Legend of Zelda, it was super, super open, right? So Breath of the Wild was actually just going back to that model. And it presents developers with a lot more freedom, I guess, in terms of how they design puzzles. So
yes,
I 100% expect the Breath of the Wild model to continue, considering Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild outsold the entire Zelda franchise combined. Yeah. So,
but do you think they're going to stick with the same art style?
I could see them doing it. Yeah.
I think that would be a very, 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 very bad mistake. I mean, if you're going to follow the same story, okay. If you're going to follow the same story, that's the only time it would make sense to me. I think the idea would be to move on to a new generation, a new version of Hyrule. I mean, the thing is, Tears of the Kingdom, it's an incredible game, but it's not as good as it can be for the core Zelda fan base, because a lot of it is very samey. We
Yeah.
need something fresh and new. The Zelda team has a long history of moving on to a new art style. They stuck with Breath of the Wild and Tears because, I mean, each game was taking a long time. They did a direct sequel. I would be shocked if they use the same art style.
The only reason why I say they could stick to the current art style is to save on time. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, so they could.
It didn't help with Tears.
Well, yeah, that is true. But think about this:
Yeah.
if they had designed Tears with a completely new art style, it would have taken even longer. Like art is the basically the part that takes the most time in development now, right? The most time, money, and resources in art. So if they keep the same art style, then that will allow them to release a Zelda game quicker. I'm not saying they will do that. I'm just saying it's possible.
I'm all for direct sequels, but I think at this point,
it doesn't have to be a sequel though. Like they could use the same art style, but the world could be completely different. They could do it in Majora's Mask to Termina. What is it? Termina.
Yeah, Termina. Yeah,
Termina.
It would be a change in philosophy for them.
Yeah. I could see them doing it if they think maybe the art style is very recognizable and they think it will help it sell. Maybe they don't want to confuse new fans by just changing the art style, but I hope they don't. And at the very least, I think that they would evolve the art style in like a significant way so it wouldn't look exactly like it and it'd be a lot more technically impressive, more detailed at the very least. But I hope that they go for something that's more like closer to Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Time, personally. But I could see them sticking with it to save time and just for the recognizability of the style. But definitely they would evolve it in some way. It wouldn't be the exact same.
Also something to consider is the art style actually plays into the technical side of things as well, right? When you go for a realistic art style, so let's say if they wanted to do something like Twilight Princess, you're going to inevitably end up in a scenario where the new Zelda will be 30 frames per second. If they stick with the same art style, then they can probably make it 60 frames per second. Because
potentially.
Yeah, because when you're doing realistic graphics, there's a lot more polygons involved, a lot more pixels eating up the CPU.
I do wonder though if they're just going to go very simulation heavy, like even more simulation, because that's like one of the big things that help Breath of the Wild and Tears do so well is all the simulation and being able to move through the environment, like from the sky to the ground to underground and all this kind of stuff. So if they push that out, that might just be enough CPU burden where it's like, well, they might as well go harder on the art because it's already going to be 30 FPS just because the CPU constraints.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all depends on what they choose to prioritize.
Yeah, it's all a design choice, right?
Yeah. So if they whatever the choice they make, it will be at the expense of something else. So if they want to do the whole super technical stuff like advanced physics and all that sort of thing, but on a grander level, then that would be at the expense of the art style, more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, they can still. No, I think it's a great point you bring up. I'm not saying it has to be realistic. I just think it should be different.
Yeah, I mean, like the Wii U tech demo kind of style it's still very stylized. It's they're not going for like ultra real, so you can still save a lot on performance that way. But more realistic than Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, which are very, very. I mean, not as cartoony as something like Wind Waker, but they do lean more towards that, cartoony look.
Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's art style will be timeless, as with Wind Waker as well. But Twilight Princess, let's be real, it looks ugly.
It's fair.
It looks ugly now.
For sure. I mean, it doesn't age as well. I mean, that when you go for realism in general, that's kind of what you lose out on the ability to be timeless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But this project, we all agree, years away. It's not close, and let's not pretend it is. Nintendo, you don't even need to announce it. That said, many people are expecting something to be announced this year for Zelda's 40th anniversary, especially because we have Aonuma. It's interesting, right? Kiwi, I think you brought up a good point that like in terms of like getting internal Nintendo like EPD project leaks, few and far between. You're absolutely right in saying that. But what we do get a lot more of, though, are members of these EPD teams sometimes saying too much. The one who has actually a pretty good history of saying too much and being in way too much control is the Zelda series producer, Eiji Aonuma. I mean, I don't think he's in way too much control. I think he's done a great job with the Zelda series. It's a joke. But he does have a long history of teasing projects. He's admitted it himself. It's happened several times. Nintendo executives have even had to shush him up in the past. We think about the Skyward Sword situation. He's teased Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening. The list goes on. And we've already talked about how he's arguably teased Ocarina a couple times in interviews. We'll see what happens, right? But there is a recent interview that came out in December where they were talking about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. And there's a couple of interesting, I'm paraphrasing here, right? But there's a couple of interesting takeaways from the interview. One, it's talked about how we should take a look at Age of Imprisonment as that can hint something in the future for the Zelda series. What that is, there's a whole bunch of stuff to interpret there. But also, he talked about how Koei Tecmo beat the Zelda team to getting out the first Zelda on Switch 2, which many people took as a suggestion. I also agree with the suggestion that something from Nintendo Zelda is supposed to be coming out soon. It's Zelda's 40th anniversary for the Switch 2. It does seem like Aonuma's at it again, suggesting that something else is coming out soon. What that is
they release some sort of Zelda game every year. Small, big, something pretty much every year comes out regarding Zelda. So I think it's safe to assume that something is going to happen for its 40th anniversary.
But the question is what that is, right? I know you have your skepticism about the Ocarina of Time remake. I think it's definitely happening, but I'm not even sure that's what this would be. I'm not even sure that would be the 40th anniversary project, because that might not be ready. But you had something on your mind, so
I think it's Twilight Princess.
Ooh,
just the Wii U ported over.
Maybe either remastered or a port, primarily because of the Zelda movie.
I definitely think that they have to do Zelda stuff and lead up to the movie.
Oh yeah. Otherwise, what's the point of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Nintendo did with Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Like it's not even subtle anymore, right? Like it was subtle before. No more is it subtle. So yeah. I mean, they could just give us Twilight Princess HD. That's something. I don't think that's I think they should they can do that. And I think that would be fine, but I also think Nintendo would be going. I think they got to tease something else. It doesn't have to come out this year, but I think they got to tease something else for the 40th anniversary. You just look at the history of whatever the next. I mean, I do not think that we're waiting another 4 years to get something substantial Zelda. So my mind jumps to Ocarina of Time remake because there's no way they have open air Zelda ready. So I think they could maybe tease that. They could have the Twilight Princess HD port. Maybe they don't even have to show off something. They could just say we have a Zelda project that's coming out soon. But there's another possibility that I think is interesting. Monolith Soft possibly could be working on something Zelda. And I don't just mean support work, which may seem shocking. And I'm not saying they are doing this, but hear me out. It seems like you haven't been listening to some recent discussions. So there was another interview that came out in December. I don't know if you heard about this one, but they were talking about the relationship between the Zelda team and Monolith Soft and how it's grown over the years. Monolith Soft has done support work for Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and they've continued to build this relationship, and they actually want to give Monolith Soft an even larger role with Zelda. That does not mean that they're going to make a Zelda game. It might mean that, it could just mean that they're just going to do even more support work for future Zelda games and take on even larger tasks with that, which, you know, could help with maybe the development pipeline, and maybe we don't have to wait another 6 years for a Zelda game. But when you think about that recent interview, and you also consider that Aonuma is pretty likely teasing some sort of 40th anniversary project, we're years away from an open air Zelda. The Ocarina of Time remake, while I think it's happening, there's certainly debate if it's even going to be ready this year. And so you start thinking about, okay, well, Monolith Soft supposedly could have a larger role. And we actually go back to this product they were hiring for that was not a part of the support recruitment page, but a part of a separate project from the beginning of the Switch era. And they had these, you've seen the art, right? From that recruitment page where there's like one that looks like a warrior Zelda, and there's like a hero in a suit of armor.
I don't think I have.
Oh, let me show you.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
When did this come out? December?
The interview that I'm talking about came out in December, right? But this art from the recruitment page has been around for like 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that's come out in December, I will largely not know anything about, primarily because I was in Sydney for 2 weeks with limited internet, so...
Yeah. There's 2 images here. Oh, I can just do this. A lot of you watching know what I'm going to share, but I'm just going to... This is one of them. So, the idea is Monolith Soft has been hiring for a project that we do not know what came of it, right? They took down the recruitment page for this project last year when they opened up a new recruitment page for the new RPG project, right? This is one of the images here. This has been around for years. This one's an interesting one. Now, you know, you could say, hey, hiring, it could just be like basic art, doesn't necessarily mean anything. That's absolutely true. It might not mean anything. However, we have also seen sometimes art actually be an indication of things. But you look here, not only can you argue this is a more realistic looking goddess statue from Skyward Sword and Breath and Tears, but also there's literally that's a Triforce with the insignia.
Hylian Crest.
The Hylian Crest. But if that's not interesting enough, here's another one that was a part of that recruitment page that is also very curious. I'm trying to pull it up here, but there we go. There we go. Okay, check this one out. You see that one? So this is another one. And this is just clearly depicting a war with a red dragon. But you have a woman with blonde hair, a crown, so some type of queen or princess, blonde hair, blue eyes. It's like a warrior version of Zelda. So these 2 bits of recruitment art were available, and they were hiring for a medieval fantasy project with action elements. And so it's interesting because we never saw what came of this project. However, there have been the codename leaks from Midori. Like 5 of them have already been confirmed. 3 others have yet to have been confirmed, but one of them that has yet to be confirmed is Project Legacy, which supposedly is in development by Monolith Soft. Many people seem to think that this project they were hiring for 8 years, that we've also seen LinkedIn profile job listings for as well, is this project. Now, is this project a Zelda project? It could just be just a medieval fantasy game made by Monolith Soft. That's all it is. But what if it's something that's tied to the Zelda universe, still its own thing, but it's tied to the Zelda universe and is actually part of the 40th anniversary plans this year?
I don't think so, but it could be a thing, yeah. But I wouldn't think they'd release it for the 40th anniversary, personally.
I think it's one of those things where it depends on what's ready, right? If you have something that's ready, you use that, right? But or you save something if it's not too far off, like and that's why it's easier to kind of like assume things like a Twilight Princess HD or a Mario Galaxy 2, because those things have been done for years. You just save them, right? I mean, with Galaxy 2, it makes sense that they saved it for the 40th anniversary. People are wondering, oh, why isn't it part of 3D All-Stars? Because they had a plan, Twilight Princess HD, supposedly, we've had several different journalists who have supposedly good track records say that both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD have been ready for Switch, but never came out. Maybe it's because they saved them because they're literally waiting for the 40th anniversary.
Yep.
And that could be it.
That's a high probability.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's like a 90% chance that that's what it is. I think it'll be a repeat of what they did with Galaxy 1 and 2. It'll either be that or Twilight Princess remastered or something.
Like to look like a tech demo?
That's my guess. Yeah.
I mean, that would be exciting. That would not be Ocarina. I mean, it would not be Ocarina of Time remake. Yeah, I would say that if they're remastering Twilight Princess to that level, the Ocarina of Time remake's not happening, not anytime soon, at least.
Well, with the remaster, you would just need to redo the art style. With the Ocarina of Time remake, you have to remake everything, unless they take the 3D version of Ocarina of Time and just remaster the artwork for that. That could be another possibility.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo, like, they might not call it a remake. They're not going to give it they're going to call it a remake. They're not going to call it a remaster. It's just going to be the title. Yeah, that's what they usually do.
Yeah. But it's very hard to know what Nintendo will do because, like, they put Wind Waker on NSO.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are already on NSO. But Twilight Princess hasn't been announced as being in the pipeline for NSO. So, I mean, if the Zelda movie, which looks to be, to me, taking influences from Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess, right?
Right.
Like, and it's going, obviously, it's live action.
Iconic green tunic Link.
Yeah. So having Wind Waker as the game to kind of advertise it doesn't seem right. No, Twilight Princess makes more sense. Yeah.
I mean, I could see Twilight Princess getting a bigger remaster because it is kind of the one where people looked at it and went, oh, this doesn't look good. Like, I remember arguing with people online a lot about like the upgrades for the game because a lot of people were like, this looks just like the original. This looks like dog water. I'm like, no, guys, I swear they changed things. But it's like you can improve the texture resolution as much as you want. It's still not going to look good. Like, it needs a bigger overhaul. And maybe they took the complaints to heart and were like, yeah, maybe we should actually just do like a visual remake of this game. Like a Prime remaster kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they need to, just because of the art style. I think you can keep the design and everything else fundamentally same. Same.
This is great.
You've already got all the quality of life things that they added to the HD version of Twilight Princess for Wii U. So you could essentially take that, just tweak it a little bit, so you don't have to take into account the second screen with the Wii U and all that, and then just completely remaster the art.
Yeah.
And then there you go.
I personally I believe at some point or another they're going to do a ambitious reworking for Twilight Princess. Sorry. With reworking, what do you mean exactly? Remake? So I intentionally use the term reworking because it's vague. Because I don't
Fair enough.
Because I'm not ready to make the claim that's going to be objectively a remake or a remaster, right? But I do think, like, you look at what they did for that tech demo years ago for Wii U, getting a Twilight Princess to look like that someday would be. I think that needs to happen eventually, right? But eventually, that there's infinite years in the future, right? And maybe it is this year if that's what they want to do, and I'm all for it. But I don't think that they're going to have two ambitious reworkings in close proximity, right? So it's one or the other, in my opinion, in terms of the not-so-distant future.
Sure. You know it's not one or the other. Oh, sorry. Finish your, because I'm going on a
Well,
tangent, so you should finish
Well, I
what you're
mean,
saying.
if we get a subtle remaster like we did for Galaxy 2, like they go back to Twilight Princess and clean it up just a little bit more, subtle things, nothing too crazy, that I can see. But I don't think we're getting either we're getting something ambitious for Twilight Princess or we're getting something ambitious for Ocarina of Time when that's ready. One or the other, not both this generation. Well, all right.
Oh, this generation might be pretty long, so who knows?
Not both within the next 3 to 4 years. Let's say that. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say something that wouldn't conflict would be a remake of a 2D game, which we are kind of due for fairly soon, I feel.
We got Echoes of Wisdom last year.
Yeah, but that's a new game. That's a new game.
But who would make it? Because Grezzo just finished Echoes of Wisdom, and I would
You
assume
could have
they would
any
remake
number of developers work on a remaster, but I don't really have any specific one in mind.
remake or remaster. Or are you just gonna call it a reworking?
I mean, it depends on your definition. Do we consider Link's Awakening or a remake or a remaster?
Link's Awakening's a remake.
It's a remake.
Okay.
Remaster usually means that the fundamental design is the same, and it's usually just the artwork that's overhauled, right?
Sure.
Like,
I mean, it also
so-
depends on which game they want to do, because I think they could do a remaster for something like A Link Between Worlds, and that'd be fine. But if they wanted to remake something like Spirit Tracks, people were mentioning in the comments earlier, that needs like a full remake.
All right, crazy idea. Not predicting this. It's just like a fun idea. But what if the reason we haven't seen 2D Metroid yet from Mercury Steam is because they're actually remaking Zelda 2?
Zelda 2 would be crazy to remake.
That to me would make more sense than any other 2D Zelda remake. Just because it's so
Really?
different.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I just
for
feel like
them, I guess it would make more sense.
I guess what I'm trying to say, right? Like, if you're gonna remake A Link Between Worlds, well, A Link Between Worlds could actually be remastered.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
modern
I was saying.
enough.
That one.
Okay, all right. So I think I heard A Link to the Past.
No.
Okay. Well, then A Link Between Worlds remastered is actually, I think, just
That would
as
be
plausible
fire.
as Twilight Princess HD.
unless they do a 3DS NSO, that's in the pipeline. At which
Yeah.
point they will not do that.
Yeah, but 3DS games, they're gonna look so bad upscaled.
We gotta get DS NSO first, right? Or do we get them both at the same time? Yeah.
Well, they're running out of stuff. They're running out of games to put on NSO. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Time will tell.
second screen is, I mean, there's ways around it, but it's gonna be a kind of inevitably somewhat janky experience.
Yeah. But let me just throw something out at you guys. And this does impact my personal thinking, right? Like, you look at the history of things. Nintendo always makes sure to announce some sort of a new Zelda title that's only possible on the new hardware, right? This is they always do this with if it's either a new game or it's like a remaster. Like for 3DS, it was Ocarina of Time 3D in that first year, right? For Wii, it was Wind Waker HD, but for Switch 1, it was Breath of the Wild. We go back to Twilight Princess for the Wii. I mean, yeah, they had the Wii version, but there were control options. They always try to have some sort of ambitious Zelda something that's early on, right?
Yeah. I mean, now they like to tease the games years out too. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be anything coming out this year.
Yeah,
or even next year.
And well, that my thinking is that I think they just need to do something. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, they should definitely have a release this year, but
Yeah.
whatever. If the release
release
is something more along the lines of a Twilight Princess HD, a Galaxy 2 thing, then that's not going to cut it in terms of like, hey, this is only something only possible on Switch 2, right? So I think they need to tease something, and I don't think we're close enough for them to give us a proper teaser for Open Air Zelda, and I also don't think you should tease something that far in advance either. But if I'm correct about the Ocarina of Time remake, to me it makes sense to at least tease that, especially if we're already getting like a Zelda Ocarina of Time Lego set. It kind of feels like they're setting the stage for something like that. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that they need to do you agree with me that they need to kind of do what they've done in the past and have something to get that Zelda fan base like, oh man, Switch 2 could do something like this? I'm buying in early, right? Or do you think that no, they're just gonna put Twilight Princess HD or A Link Between Worlds remastered and that's it, nothing else?
I think it'll just be that, nothing else. What was it the 20th anniversary or the 30th anniversary, and they released that like really underwhelming? Was it Zelda on like some sort of Game and Watch?
So you're talking about the 35th, and
Yeah.
that was 2021. They had the Game and Watch for the 35th anniversary, but in fairness, they also had Skyward Sword HD come out.
Yeah, exactly. But
And they also gave us new footage for Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah,
well, I mean, I could see them doing something similar to that again, pretty much. I think you'll see. I don't think you're going to see anything grandiose. I just don't. I think temper your expectations. I would say some sort of HD release or a remaster of Twilight Princess. I think a full-on remake, I can't see it happening. But
I mean, if it's a cool looking remaster of Twilight Princess, like, you know, I think that would to make the distinction, right? Because there's varying levels of a remaster. Technically, Galaxy 2 is a remaster, but that's not the remaster we wanted, right? If we're talking about like visually, it's made to look like a modern game, that would fall in line with what I think they have done in the past and what they should do. But if it just looks like the Wii U version at a higher resolution, then no, I don't think that's going to cut it.
I can see them doing that,
hyping the fan base.
I can honestly see them doing that just because Nintendo are known to like do that.
If this was just a 35th anniversary, I would agree with you. But it's not just an anniversary thing, right? It's also the anniversary is good marketing for the movie, but also is the beginning of a new generation. So that's where I'm coming from. That it makes sense for marketing to have something bigger, not necessarily ready, but to get the fan base excited. And
with the Switch, we got that first trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, and E3 2019, right?
Way too early, but yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it clearly shows, and they knew it was years out, like years out. Most of the gameplay they showed wasn't even actually gameplay; it was like pre-rendered stuff that didn't even appear in the final game at all. Basically, I mean, the concept was there, but the actual like everything you saw did not appear in the way that was in a trailer. So I mean, clearly they see value in showing off the fact that there is a new Zelda game coming to hype fans, even if it is far away, because they know that hype is enough to generate sales for the system and keep people in it. I mean, they announced other things like Prime 4. They knew that they needed to announce that far ahead of time. You know, I'm sure that they didn't think it was going to take as long as it did, but they still knew it was going to take years to come out. Yeah. And I feel like having something big to be like, okay, guys, because they don't have a new 3D Mario, they don't have a new 3D Zelda, they don't have their big hitters. Sure, but they don't have it yet, and I do think they need to show that they have these big games coming. Segue. I mean, I think
it's good to bring up Mario because I mean, if there isn't anything big Zelda, it better be Mario then. Like, but is there anything else we want to say about Zelda's 40th anniversary expectations before we move on? I think they're going to announce the park this year. They'll announce the plans.
That could be part of the announcement. I will say, increasingly, Nintendo is trying to limit their marketing until a game is close to release.
Yeah.
They've run into difficulties in the past where they've announced a game too early, and then it gets delayed and delayed and delayed, right? The only reason why Metroid Prime 4 was announced as early as it was is because of the bad reception to Federation Force and they were kind of in a bind because Federation Force was not well received, and they were announcing Samus Returns, which was just essentially a remake. And so I think that's predominantly why they announced Metroid Prime 4 early. Reggie even said this too. He even said it in an interview. So
why announce Tears of the Kingdom so early?
Well, I mean,
yeah, exactly. But for the most part, that's what they do now. They try and limit it until close to
Zelda
release.
seems
But
like it's
Zelda
this
might
weird
be
exception.
Zelda might be the exception. Yeah, as you say.
I mean, and so like, again, my thinking is they are doing the Ocarina of Time remake. I think that's kind of like the holdover, right, for open air Zelda, because that's just not ready. I think they need to have something to excite the fan base. So
I'm gonna be messaging you when this anniversary direct happens.
I don't even think it's gonna be an anniversary direct, just so you know.
Well, okay. So you don't think Ocarina of Time remake will be announced in the anniversary? Do you think it'll be announced this year?
I have taken it out on a limb to say that there's a strong chance it's announced, but it's not coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's announced, I will be messaging you privately saying, "Hey, man, I will take the L. I will take the L. I will humbly apologize."
I mean,
because I still think if it exists, it'll be the remaster of Ocarina of Time 3D.
No way. And if that's what it is, I'll be messaging you like, "Hey, man, you are 100% right. This sucks, but you're right."
I mean, if it's like a full visual remake of the game, I will be happy with that. I would be cool if they do go and like reimagine and like actually remake everything from the ground up. But if it's just the visuals being remade, I would also be happy with that, because like there's no good way to play Ocarina of Time with like decently modern visuals at the moment. So having a visual remake would be nice at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's play the hypothetical though. Actually, two hypotheticals. This just can't. This is a random thing. This is going off topic, but because you brought up the Metroid Prime 4 situation, hypothetically, obviously this can't happen. But what if we went back in time, right? And Metroid Prime 4 was never restarted, and it came out, I don't know, 2019. Let's just say, right? And it's the game that we literally got today. The Switch 1 version. Mm-hmm. If what we got in 2025 for Switch 1 came out in 2019, how would it have been received? Something tells me it would have been, literally as it is, I feel it would have been received better.
I agree.
Sure.
It still would have suffered some controversy for sure, but it would be nowhere near as bad.
I think the Metacritic score would be a lot higher. Not 94 on Metacritic high, but I think it would have probably been in the 80s.
Yeah, I would say mid 80s.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, but look, even if it had been released earlier, at its core, it just has a lot of issues, particularly towards the end of the game. I think that's where the game starts to really tank, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you can see they're padding out the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have slightly different opinions on that. My issue, this is a whole other thing. It's a whole other thing. I mean, we agree there are things that need to be tinkered on and reworked. So, yeah.
Okay. So let me put it to you. Let me put this question to you. What things do you think need to be patched in the game? I
mean, there are things that they can't fix, right? The game is what it is, right?
Yeah, that's stuff that's actually plausible, right?
Yeah,
which won't break the game fundamentally, like its core design. Yeah.
I mean, so ultimately, the patches would be subtle things. I think probably adjusting the ratio of green crystals.
Yep, I agree.
Maybe adjusting how assistance is provided. I would prefer you could either reduce it or limit it a little bit,
like toggles.
At least toggles, something to balance that out. I think those are realistic patches that would probably help some people's enjoyment of the game. Like I think Miles chimes in too much in the desert. Like that should. I think honestly he should just not, unless he wants to say, hey, like first off, make it way less often that he even says anything, right? And when he does, it's like, hey, if you need some help, press the map screen with minus, press X to get my help. I think that's what they should do. I don't want to be told, hey, go to the mountain unless I decide I want to get that clue. I think things like that they can relatively easily patch. That's not really changing the structure of the game and would make an improvement. But they can't change. Like I think in the Great Minds, the troopers are too involved.
Yeah.
I actually really like that section, but they needed to take a step back there. But they can't change that. That can't be patched. That's just part of the game.
Yeah. I didn't like the fake out. I think that section would have held way more weight if that all died. Personally.
I agree.
Yeah. The fake out, because then it makes the at the ending, like, it doesn't really hit that much because it's like, oh, okay. You already had the fake out and stuff, and I just didn't.
Or at least let someone should have. Well, we're kind of talking spoilers here, but I think there should have been some death at that point. Maybe some survive, some don't. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
In terms of the patches, I agree with you with the green crystals. I think it needs to be reduced by at least 25%. I think a toggle on off button for miles. I understand why they implemented it because there are a lot of people that get intimidated and don't like being lost. And I imagine they are sitting on heaps of data that shows that people drop Metroid Prime. I've tried to get my my nieces and nephews into Metroid Prime, and they find it too intimidating, and they're always like, "Where do we go? Where do we go?" And then they get bored and drop it.
Prime 4 is the most finishable of the series.
Yeah, and I would say to anybody, it's a Metroid game for noobs. If you've never played a Metroid Prime game before, 100% start with Prime 4.
Until you play Hyper Mode.
Until you play Hyper Mode or Hard Mode. Yeah, I haven't played Hard Mode yet. The other
I call it Hyper Mode, but yeah.
The other things I would patch would make the scanning quicker, reduce it by like a second, 2 seconds. It's too long. And add music to the desert, man. Like driving on the motorcycle and like just having nothing. Like imagine sailing on the Great Sea in Wind Waker and there's no music.
Yeah, I know everyone has different opinions on this. I actually like the background music sounds, the singing in the background with the wind. Like I like that. But
I think I have it initially. So you have it initially until you get to a certain section. Maybe you get the motorcycle and then you traverse it or another part of the map and then you add the music in. Having it literally the entire game of just ambience, particularly when you've got parts in the game where you have to be in the desert, and depending on when you got the green crystals, you could be there for hours of just. Ooh,
yeah, what's interesting is that the way I played the game, by the time I was at the end sequence, I had more than 100%. I had like 125%.
Crystals?
So like, yeah, like it wasn't.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I don't even know how much I had, but it just felt like it took forever. Compound that with the mech fetch quest, which also takes place in the desert.
And about that I think there's actually like the blueprint for a better end game fetch quest, but the problem is they made it end game. You should have been able to just do it throughout. And the green crystals technically you can, but the mech parts I think should have been accessible earlier on. So like as you're progressing, you're finding the parts as opposed to just doing it all at the end. I think it would have made it.
I agree.
But I don't think you can patch that. Like that would be a groundbreaking patch. That would be kind of like, like when some games come out and they're a complete dumpster fire and the devs take a long time to fix the game, and then a year or two later, like, hey, the game's better now. Like it would be like that, and I don't think they're ever going to do that for this. It's not that bad of a situation. Yeah, I mean, I still agree with you that those patches would be good. It's interesting about the music. I'm pretty sure that amiibo music is in the game. Like people say it's not in the game. It is. It's in the track in Volt Forge.
Oh, the Viola track.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually know. Because you can get a jukebox if you unlock the amiibo, right? And like if you get like 100% scans and 100%.
Yeah.
Items,
I only got
99,
the amiibo,
the jukebox.
My hard mode, I'm not gonna know what I get for full 100, but
Yeah.
But
Or the
I've
other idea would be you unlock the jukebox, like at some point in the game as like an upgrade.
that's not 100%.
Yeah, just not make it 100% because it's just honestly when you add music to it, it changes the desert quite a lot. Like people underestimate how important music is to how you feel, like the feeling of a game,
Sure.
and, like the emotion that it
Maybe I'm just
can
a
produce
loner
for
or something,
someone.
because like I agree with what you're saying. I just really liked what they had in the desert already. But
I liked it at first, but I
Sure.
just think having it for the whole game is a no-no. I think that was a very, very bad call.
I agree.
But you know, they could patch a jukebox unlock so you can toggle what you want.
Yep.
Sure.
These are all simple things that they could easily do as well. The hardest one, the toggle of miles, that's not hard to implement.
Be godsend.
No.
Yeah. The toggle for the music, that wouldn't be hard. That wouldn't be too difficult either. Scanning, I don't think would be too difficult if you reduced it by like a second. Or
On
2
that
seconds.
note, there's something else I think they should do. I don't think they will. I don't think this is a realistic expectation, but it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be. I don't. Maybe I'm underestimating how hard it would be. I think they should have a specific color for all mandatory scans, because if you're going for 100%, you go into a room and you just spend every waking moment scanning everything. I think it takes away from the experience of the environment. I think they should tweak
Ruins the
things.
pacing.
Yeah, they should tweak things so you scan to investigate when you want to investigate, and not feel like you have this anxiety about, oh, I have to scan everything or I'm going to miss the 100%, right? So if there is a specific color that's like, oh, there's a mandatory scan, great. But if it's just like a random like information scan, you can scan it if you want that flavor text, right? Or to get some more background on the environment. But if it's not mandatory, you don't have to worry about it.
I don't think they won't do that.
I agree. I don't think they will. I think they should, but I don't think
it would be a engineering nightmare. And also, I feel specifically the part in Icebound where you're doing like the detective thing with the whole the TK keys and stuff. I think the whole idea is that you scan everything because you're trying to find everything. And if you've got something that's green and purple, then that immediately gives it away. So I think that comes back to it being a core design aspect of the game. So I don't see them doing that. I understand where you're coming from though, and I somewhat agree, but I think it's too
not.
late
It can't. You can't. No, I mean we're on the same page. I think it's something that would make the game better if they could design a game with that in mind in the future. And to your point about the ice belt stuff, they could always do like again, they're not going to do this, right? But you know, if they had to redo things or for the next game, it could be they can still do something like that. But maybe there's just something happens to your connection where you can't tell what are mandatory scans or not in that area. Sure. And there you go. Problem solved. But they're not going to patch the game like that. It's not going to happen.
No.
But maybe in Prime 5.
Yeah. I actually think Icebound is like the highlight of the game. I think that's where the game peaks, personally. I think that whole section,
very good.
From the minute you get to Icebound to the minute you leave, I think it's great. With the wolves, Takobi, the basically detective alien stuff, the
cool.
power generator, the boss, like I think all of that stuff is just
the melted ice,
brilliant.
That the changing of the environment.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Very, very good. And then it kind of just never hits that peak again. There are a couple points in Flare Pool that I really liked. I like the boss fight, and I like the escape sequence. Although I feel like they cut a little bit out of that. I think they probably had more ambitions there, but they had to cut it.
How did you feel about the revisit? I feel like the revisit to Flare Pool is really cool.
Towards the end with the mech, when you're getting the mech part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go back to the boss room?
Yeah, well, you have to get the mech part, right?
No.
No. The actual boss room, like the big boss. No, well, I haven't 100%ed it yet, so
you should.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but you should.
All right.
Yeah, there are some fun things because like each environment changes, right?
Yes,
and so
it does.
there is reward for revisiting areas, right? And that's something I think Prime 4 does really well, better
I
than the
agree.
other Metroid games. The exploration between them, I agree, that's not as good. But going back to these areas and seeing how they've changed, that's something I think they need to build on. Anyway, let's move on to Mario. Let's talk about what's
Okay.
going on with Mario. Because you brought up yourself earlier, right? Like, you know, they got to be working on Mario, right? Like, do you
They
believe?
are. I can tell you they are. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
or
they are.
believe?
No, I know. I know they are.
Oh, is this a scoop?
Well, I kind of covered it when I did the whole reveal of the Kremlings in DK Bonanza. I
Okay.
said 3D Mario is still on the way. It is.
Oh yeah. You know,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
my brain was just like Kremlings, so I didn't.
Yep.
Because back
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I was like, oh, Kremlings, but yeah. I mean, and that it's an interesting point, right? Because like it's a little bit of telling of like Nintendo's development pipeline because, well, you know, they're working on Bonanza all these years, but they also were still working on 3D Mario.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, let's assuming I didn't believe what you said, but I do. I think it just makes sense, right? Like, I mean, first
It's
of all,
a golden
we've seen,
goose.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mario's always made available early on every generation. Why would they take 8 years and not have something close to ready for 3D Mario? That makes no sense. Also, key members that worked on Mario Odyssey did not focus on Bonanza, like Koizumi, if I'm not mistaken. Like, there's evidence to suggest that yes, 3D Mario's definitely been in the works and shouldn't be too far off. The question is it close enough that we see it come out this year?
I think
yeah.
It'll come out either this year or 2027.
So
Okay.
on my 2026 predictions, right, I'm basically like, hey, we're either getting 3D Mario or we're getting that Zelda remake. Not both. I think you need like a big Mario or Zelda thing for that second holiday.
Well, I mean, it would make more
Or it
sense
could
to
be
have
Smash
Mario
Brothers.
this year and Zelda next year because we had the Mario movie this year, we had the Zelda movie
Sakurai.
next year.
The thing is, Sakurai just came out with Kirby Air Riders. So
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of joking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I do agree they need one big game. So I think 3D Mario will be the game this year. I'm trying to think of like something big.
Well, I mean, there's big, and then there's that kind of big, right? Like, for example,
which is
Luigi's
only
Mansion
3D Mario.
4, to me, is huge, but I don't think that. I think they could do both this year because they're very different types of games. But I don't think. I think if Luigi's Mansion 4 is your sole, like, let's say there's no Zelda remake, let's say there's no 3D Mario, it's just Gen 10 Pokemon Luigi's Mansion 4. Given what we've already gotten, I don't think it's quite. I think Nintendo would be lacking. You know, it's not strong enough for that second holiday of Switch 2.
Here's the thing, though. We have to consider the elephant in the room, which is GTA 6.
I was just thinking about that game.
Like, I don't care if you're Nintendo, you're not releasing anywhere near that thing. If you release 3D Mario near GTA 6, it 100%, as great as Mario is, it will hurt sales, at least initially. And so they have to be considering this.
2 weeks? A month?
What? GTA 6? You don't want to
like,
release anywhere near that, like, within a month before release or a month, possibly 2 afterwards. Because what it's going to do is that's going to swallow up all the attention for literally everything in terms of, like, coverage from streamers, coverage from, like, gaming publications, all that stuff. Like, it's just...
As a non-GTA fan, I'm just like, well, what about me?
Yeah, like, even if you don't like GTA, like, this is going to be the biggest entertainment launch in history.
Yeah.
And that's not hyperbole. Like, this is an exaggeration. Like, this thing is literally... There are so many investors, there's so many game developers, there's so many people that are waiting for this thing because they view it like a turning of the tide sort of thing in terms of the industry and hope that it brings back, I suppose, revigoration, I guess, of the industry after being in such a downward spiral. The question is, and I've talked about this on Twitter, is whether it's coming to Switch 2 or not. Now, I have a source that has told me that it is. I don't believe him. I've got a bet against him. And if I lose, then I have to, because he's in India, so I have to, when I go to India later this year,
Nice.
if he wins the bet, then I have to buy him this a beautiful feed at a lavish restaurant, and vice versa. If I win, then he has to buy it for me. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I do think GTA is coming to Switch 2, but not anytime soon.
yeah, well, if
not
it does
day-
come,
day.
it won't be day and date. It
Right.
would be
So
in
it's not.
2027.
It's. I mean, I think there's reason to doubt that GTA even comes out this year at all. Right? Like it could possibly be delayed. But let's assume it comes out, no more delays. It's not coming out on Switch 2 this year. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I think it feels like a pretty safe thing to say.
We don't even have GTA 5 yet.
Yeah, so
I will say this because I know a couple of people that are working on it. There's going to be no other game that will be able to replicate what GTA 6 does for like 15 years. Because nobody
yeah,
else has the
yeah.
time, money, and resources.
Oh, what's the budget on the game? Like $1 billion? Or
Yeah,
something?
close to, I think it's $1 billion. Yeah. And that's why, because I saw someone in the comments saying, "Oh, it's overrated." Like I don't really care. But
I mean, I don't
these
care
are the
about
things to
I don't either. But like,
It's a sequel
I
to
still
the biggest game
recognize-
of all time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, a sequel to the biggest game of all time is also still not going to be played by everyone.
Sure.
There's tons of games out there. People play different things. I will say, like, I wanted. I mean, I know GTA 5 was a different beast. Like GTA 5 kind of created the circumstance for GTA 6, right? But
Yeah.
when I think about the fact that it's probably not going to be available on Switch 2 day one, so like Nintendo can't just not have games come out during that.
They'll
period.
have Pokemon, but that will be it.
Sure. I mean, we don't know when it's coming out, and neither does Nintendo. So it's kind of like, how do they plan around something they don't even know the plans for?
Well, this is the thing, right? Because I speak to a lot of developers, and this has been a concern for a long time. Like on the one hand,
Sure.
they're like, yes, it'll prop up the industry, but on the other hand, they're like, we don't want to announce anything and then be right in the way of GTA 6 because that's it. Your game's dead on arrival.
I do think Nintendo has a special position where their market is very separate from other markets. Because for 100% on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, this game's going to take over. Nothing else that releases even close to it's going to matter. But Nintendo, first of all, GTA 6 isn't going to be there, so people are still going to want something to play on their Switch 2. And there is a significant portion of Switch owners who don't really play anything else or don't that often and probably aren't going to buy GTA 6 and are
I
looking
don't know
to buy
about that.
something
I think
else.
I think the user base of Switch 1 and Switch 2 has dramatically changed from Nintendo's earlier years.
Sure.
It's a lot more third-party friendly. There's a lot of the base or the core demographic are people in their 30s, right? It's not just a platform for like kids anymore.
I mean, I think both are true.
Yeah, and like I don't know what it is in the States, but I know here in New Zealand, like whenever I go on the eShop, like GTA Trilogy and Red Dead Redemption 1 are like constantly in the top 20. Both on Switch 1 and now with the 4K version of Red Dead Redemption 1 on Switch 2. Like it's constantly there all the time.
I'm gonna look at the eShop
And
right
definitely-
now. Let's see.
Like if you look at the charts and stuff. So
I don't disagree with that.
And these are old as games too. So like old as games. So
I feel like it's different here, but let me look.
I think if GTA 6 was coming to Switch 2, it'd be more impactful. And I definitely think there's going to be a lot of people, including myself, who are going to ignore most things other than GTA 6 for a time. But I also think that there's as Andre said, there's both. There's just so many people in the
Do you mind
ecosystem
if
that
I
inevitably
go
there's
over
millions of people who are
the
not
list
interested.
here?
Yeah, go over the
Sure.
list.
Yeah. So there's bestsellers on Switch 2 tab, and I'll check Switch 1 after, right? So bestsellers on Switch 1 currently: Bonanza, Legend ZA, a 42% off Cyberpunk 2077, Mario Kart World, Mario Party Jamboree, Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, Hades 25% off, Age of Imprisonment, Red Dead Redemption 50% off at 10, Madden 50% off at 11, Hogwarts Legacy 50% off at 12, Breath of the Wild at Switch 2 Edition at 13, Fantasy Life 25% off, Hollow Knight 20% off, Tears of the Kingdom, Split Fiction, No Man's Sky 60% off, Star Wars Outlaws 33% off, Final Fantasy Tactics 20% off. If you notice there, it's all first party things, and then third parties when they have a discount running.
Is that the same? Like that's Switch 2. What about Switch 1?
That's Switch 2. Switch 1, Jamboree, Mario Bros. U Deluxe 33% off. I'm only mentioning the discounts when they're there. Switch Sports 20% off. Legend ZA, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Smash Ultimate, Minecraft 25% off, Mario Odyssey 33% off, Animal Crossing, Mario Galaxy 1+2, Just Dance 40% off, Hogwarts Legacy 85% off, Hello Kitty Island Adventure 33% off, Mario Wonder, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope 90% off. That's the gold edition, by the way.
It's a good deal.
Link's Awakening Echoes of Wisdom chat. If you guys haven't played the Zelda game yet, 30% off. Minecraft Deluxe something 25% off. It Takes Two, Skyrim, the special edition that just came out, 60% off, and Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't expect a ton of third parties on Switch 1 because unlike earlier in its lifetime, there's not as many coming. They aren't as impressive anymore.
I mean, it's interesting that the best-selling games on Switch 1, there are Nintendo games that are discounted, but on Switch 2, you don't see any of that. You just see only some third parties selling. I mean, it's not that third parties don't sell well, but third parties typically get discounts. First-party games don't. And those discounts definitely help eShop sales. Like, I mean, if I see a game at a discount, I'm like, tell me more.
Losing money not
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have data on me, right? But I agree that GTA 6 is something that I'm sure Nintendo has to consider. But it also, a big part of me has to think that it's not going to lead them to have a game drought, especially during the holiday season.
I'm not saying it's a drought, but my thinking would be they would release Pokemon because Pokemon is basically immune to that stuff. Also, GTA is not popular in Japan. Pokemon's biggest market is in Japan. So that's the game that kind of makes most sense to put there. If they do Pokemon 3D Mario in the way of GTA 6, I'm just like, oh my god, man, really? I just think that's a bad move.
But that's November, right?
That is November, unless they release it in. They could possibly release 3D Mario maybe early October. I think that'd be okay.
The thing is, there's something else I think that's coming out in October.
What?
We're transitioning.
I know what we're talking about here.
Luigi's Mansion 4 is happening. Maybe. Emphasis on the maybe. But I feel pretty good about this one. So Next Level Games is the developer of the Luigi's Mansion series. Luigi's Mansion 3 sold 13 plus million copies. Best-selling game in the series. Every time they release a new game, it reaches new heights. It's one of the better-selling Switch 1 games. It would be shocking if Next Level Games didn't go back to the Luigi's Mansion 4. There's no guarantee that their next game is Luigi's Mansion 4, but they did just put out Mario Strikers in 2022. And their development pattern is every 3 years. And if you'll notice, nothing came out in 2025. So they're actually overdue based off their history of releases over the last few generations. But we've also seen that they have ramped up their hiring for new team members over the last year, which you could maybe take to mean they're going through some sort of transition, perhaps wrapping up one project, moving on to another. But the big thing that happened, I mean, there's little things, like you look at how Nintendo put out, Luigi's Mansion 2, well, in 2024. They put out Luigi's Mansion 1 and NSO recently. Like, they've made all the Luigi's Mansion games available, which is nice. But a big thing that happened recently, we actually go back to Special Nick from the Xbox Era podcast. He was sent a list of amiibos. So this is a rumor, right? But given his track history, I have to pay attention to it. He got a list of amiibos, and he's not allowed to say all on the list, but he got permission to mention a little bit. He mentioned there would be a lot of Zelda amiibo, which is interesting. I mean, if there's a lot of a Zelda amiibo, that suggests there are some Zelda games that are coming out this year for 40th anniversary. Well, they'll, of course, put out amiibo to make more money. Makes sense. That's not a crazy prediction or anything like that, right? We can agree with that. But the one that was highly curious is he mentioned Luigi with the Poltergust. Assuming that's true, to me, that's just like, okay, well, yeah, Luigi's Mansion 4 obviously is coming out, and they're going to put out a new Luigi amiibo with the Poltergust. And
well,
so
then there won't be 3D Mario. If Luigi's Mansion 4 is coming out this year, then there won't be 3D Mario. It will be pushed to next year. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't played a Luigi's Mansion since the first one. So
Really?
yeah. Primarily because I feel a little bit burned out on the Mario IP, like just in terms of how many spin-offs, and I'm just kind of over being in that universe, so I kind of stick to 3D Mario and Mario Kart, and that's about it. So I haven't...
You play Smash?
I play Smash. But that's kind of like a meshing of heaps of different...
Right, but it's technically a spin-off.
Of Mario?
Right. Yeah. Super Mario Brothers, Super Smash Brothers.
But it wasn't designed... It wasn't designed as a spin-off.
Well, how do you define a spin-off?
Well, it's something that's set in the universe of that thing and was designed with that universe in mind. So, like, it was... when you see the prototypes that Sakurai made... basically, Sakurai wanted to create a fighting game that wasn't as intimidating for newcomers to play. But he wasn't thinking of Mario. He came up with the idea of Nintendo IP. But I wouldn't say... I mean, maybe the name is a play on Super Mario Brothers, but I wouldn't say it's a spin-off in the Mario universe because there's so many different Nintendo IP.
I mean, I feel
it's
like
video games, the game. That's what it is. Video games Hall of Fame. That's what the game is.
The main point I'm trying to get at is that I think you should give Luigi's Mansion a try. It's not
Which one?
This is not
3.
3 over 2?
3.
Just
yes.
skip 2. You don't need to play 2. It's
2
fine,
is the weak,
but it's
2 is the weakest of the series. Yeah.
It's not a bad game. It's just you don't. If you're already not into,
I remember playing 1, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't like, oh my god, this is amazing.
3 is one of my favorite games on the Switch in general.
So can you explain to me what is so great about Luigi's Mansion 3?
Okay. So a few things. It's probably one of the most technically impressive games on Switch 1. It's a showcase of the hardware. The level of interactivity with the environment is very high. Like, if you played Luigi's Mansion 1, you probably noticed there's a lot you can kind of interact with in the rooms. That's been brought to another level on Luigi's Mansion 3. There's a lot of very unique puzzles per room. It's basically a puzzle adventure, right? All the rooms are puzzles that you have to sort out and navigate through. The ghost combat is a unique spin that's fun. It's well animated. Luigi has some great expressions, and
it's very
that's what it is.
Addictive to collect everything in the game and actually explore. And there are extremely well hidden secrets. Like, you could be in a room searching for half an hour and just be like, I know there's something in this room, and I
Oh, yeah.
cannot find it. 'Cause
100%
it's so
is
well
fun.
hidden.
Yeah, the 100% challenge is a challenge. Also, great co-op game. Probably one of the best Nintendo co-op games there are, because you play
Yeah.
the second player plays as Luigi. There's a lot of puzzles built around Luigi. So if you have your wife or
fights are
friend
really
or
good,
family
too.
member, would be great to play alongside somebody.
Well, I only live with my wife, and my wife doesn't game at all. So
I'm not saying you have to play a co-op.
I
I'm
know,
just
but if
saying,
I like co-op, I'd have to find. Because can you play co-op online, or is it just local?
not to my
I
knowledge.
think it's just local.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Unless there's like a game share. I mean, there probably should be a Luigi's Mansion 3 update for Switch 2. You know,
They
maybe that's
really
something
should.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll
It is
I'll
also
try and see if I can fit it in sometime this year.
Maybe you wait till they announce Luigi's Mansion 4 and they announce a Switch 2 enhancer. Like, oh, this is my time to get on board.
Maybe.
I would also
Yeah.
say
I mean,
it's
there's-
one of the most creative, and like the different environments you go to and everything it's one of the most creative games Nintendo's made in a long time.
Okay. Cool. Because there's
Yeah.
nothing. What's been announced by Nintendo this year? There's nothing from Nintendo this year so far that.
Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is probably the game I'm most interested in from what's been
Yeah.
announced. Maybe Splatoon Raiders. Actually,
Hyped as
Splatoon
hell
Raiders-
for Tamagotchi life. I don't know about you guys.
I don't care.
I
for
like.
It's so
Here's the
good.
thing, like Splatoon. I only played the first Splatoon as well. I haven't played 2 or 3.
that. Well, this is not
Primarily
even
because-
normal Splatoon. This is a spin-off adventure game, I guess.
Yeah, which I
like
what-
roguelike or something.
Yeah.
Because like I don't really play a lot of online multiplayer. The only online multiplayer game I really play is Smash Brothers. So
Okay.
like I loved the campaign of Splatoon 1, but I didn't really play online that much with the original Splatoon. So it's a possibility. If it's just a single player game, then it's something I could be interested in. Fire Emblem.
I think it's like a co-op thing, from what I understand.
I mean, the game I'm most hyped for this year so far is Resident Evil 9.
oh,
Um,
looks like that's gonna be really
I-
good on Switch too.
I'm actually excited for a lot of things to play on my Switch 2. Even though I played 7 Remake before, I want to get it for my Switch 2. I really enjoyed the demo. I'm right there with you with Resident Evil 9, especially after they announced Leon S. Kennedy, because like Resident Evil 4 on GameCube, like that was like my childhood a big part of my childhood, right? So seeing Leon being brought back to this, and it's the first time Resident Evil's been made available for a Nintendo platform day and date in a long time. Like even if I don't play it on my Switch 2, like I'm definitely gonna play that game.
Are you going to get the bundle deal with the 7 and 8? You know how there's RE9 and it comes with 7 and 8.
I
or, like,
have played 7 is Village.
7 is 7, and then 8 is Village.
Which one's the Biohazard?
7.
Yeah, it's 7. So 7's like the really, really hard. Like it's only in first person.
All right, so I played 8, then I haven't played 7.
Okay.
So
Oh.
that's my thing. I guess I'll have to look this up to see if it's worth it, because I've already played through 8, so I don't want to have to buy it again. But I do want to play 7, so I'll have to think about that. But yeah, I mean, there's those third-party things. The Dustbloods. I'm a huge From Software
yes.
guy, so I'm very much interested in the Dustbloods. So there's that.
I'm increasingly finding as I get older that I don't have the time like I used to, and Souls games require a lot of dying and re-dying.
Yes.
And like as I get older, it became apparent to me playing Silk Song. I was just like, I think I'm not as much of a fan of these games as I used to be. But I appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
Yeah.
try this year to get an interview with Miyazaki. Good luck to me.
Ooh.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Again, guys, his channel is linked in the description below, so
Yeah.
make
We'll
sure you're
see.
subscribed.
We'll see if I
Yeah.
can pull it off.
Dude,
I have
that'd be
some people
wild.
behind the scenes trying to help me, but yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for you.
Cheers, man.
Yeah. I mean, so you asked about some third-party games we're excited about. I think there's a game that's there's been some data mines that are strongly suggesting Monster Hunter Wilds is gonna be on Switch too.
I'm so curious how that
Like we're
is going
seeing
to
literally
run.
like UI elements are saying Switch 2 from the data mines.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's coming. You can pretty much expect every Capcom game to be on Switch 2
Yeah,
going forward.
Sure.
Primarily because Nintendo basically has a monopoly in Japan. And if you want to sell your games in Japan, you need to be on Nintendo hardware. Monster Hunter is extremely popular in Japan.
Yeah.
And Monster Hunter Wilds
Affordable.
just flopped on PS5 in Japan.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they
it's
will
kind of a
do-
mess on every platform it's been
yeah, it is.
released
It's an
on.
unoptimized mess. Yes, I agree. I don't know at this stage how they're going to pull it off. It's a tall
Probably
order,
not
but-
well.
Yeah.
I need the other
think it's a
versions of
wait
something
and
to go
see.
well.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I'm expecting
know.
a wobbly 30 FPS with poor image quality and stutters potentially.
Yeah. Also,
And bad textures, very bad.
I know Capcom are working on ports of RE2, RE3, and RE4 remake as well.
Those would
Yeah.
work really well.
I think they're scheduled for Halloween this year.
That
But
makes sense.
I don't quote me on that 100%.
I'm sure those all.
But I
could
know
run really
they're in the
great.
works. But when it comes to release dates, it's always a bit.
Yeah, but I have heard the sentiment that this is supposed to be a big year for ports, and
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm very much interested in playing some high quality third party games on my Switch too. But I don't think that means Nintendo's not gonna bring the goods. I think they got to pace themselves, right? And my point is there's got to be some heavy hitters. I don't. I'm big on Luigi's Mansion 4. I think that could be a big game this year. I do not think that's enough. There's got to be something. And not Pokemon and that are not. I mean, Pokemon's gonna sell well. Like, don't get me wrong. And if it's Switch 2 exclusive, as the Terror League suggests, which we'll see if that actually. It's hard for you to believe that they're not gonna have a Switch 1 version this quickly, but.
Well, it might help their development cycle a lot if they don't have to
Yeah.
worry about a Switch 1 version, actually.
But I think it would be very surprising if we do not have any sort of substantial 3D Zelda or 3D Mario release in by the second holiday of Switch 2. That seems very strange to me, and I don't think that's ever happened in Nintendo history.
So I'm going to say something here.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a weak year on the Nintendo front in terms of new games. I think you'll see a number of Switch 2 editions to kind of pad out the year and let third parties take the reign. Nintendo pushed very, very hard to make sure that they had first-party releases at launch, but I don't think this is going to be a banger of a year. Just certain things I've heard. I think on the third-party front, like, you're going to see a lot of stuff. And I said on Twitter, there's a WTF game. I'm not saying what it is. That everyone will be like, what the hell?
Yeah, I'm very curious on what that is. But Kiwi, I'm gonna turn it around on you though, right? Because you've made the argument that we probably don't have that much insight in terms of what internal Nintendo of Japan is planning, right? Mm-hmm. So how can we say with confidence that they don't? You know what I mean? Like maybe there is.
Well, I'm just looking at it from a bandwidth perspective, right? With how long some of these games are taking, how many studios Nintendo has, where they're prioritizing things. They're not going to be able to have banger every year after banger every year, right?
Sure, but 2024 was pretty weak. And the
I don't
first
even
half
think
of 2020
2025 was that great, to be honest.
2020,
it was fine.
First half of 2025 was, nothing for the most part.
Yeah, it was nothing.
Yeah,
but,
and I think 2020, the first 6-7 months for Switch 2 are good, but
they don't even come close to Switch 1.
I'm like I said, I think that it's a good lineup, but I don't think it's a lineup that's like, oh my god, we've depleted all our resources either. So
I'm not talking about like depleting of resources. I'm not talking about that, but I think
maybe you misunderstood my phrase. I just meant like I don't think they showed their entire hand with the first 7 months of Switch 2.
I think, well, again, it comes back to GTA 6, right? They're not going to. They're going to try and get all this stuff out before October, for the most part. Anything that they think is going to be in the way of GTA 6, they'll delay to 2027, I would think. And I think you've got a lot of games coming out this year on the third-party front. So let's say GTA 6, right? But then you've got stuff that's coming out on Switch 2. Call of Duty comes out this year on Switch 2.
One would hope. It's about time. They made a legally binding agreement years ago. It's about time to see something, right?
Yep. Doom the Dark Ages comes out. Starfield comes out. There's a whole bunch of like third-party stuff. That's,
Indiana Jones.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. And so, like, you can't put out a banger after a banger, right? So I think if you're trying to look at it strategically, Nintendo's like, okay, cool, we have third parties on board, because they will know, right? They'll have a rough idea of who's going to be releasing games on their system, or stuff that's in the pipeline potentially. And so that gives them a lot of breathing room to maximize their releases, right? Like, if Luigi's Mansion 4 is coming out this year, I just don't think you're going to see 3D Mario. They're not going to release two games like in the same year that are kind of big tentpole releases that are in the Mario universe. I just don't think that's going to be a thing.
Tell you what,
but yeah,
let's say you're 100% spot on, and there's not the biggest game. There's no Mario, there's no Zelda, right? They have to at least announce something big for next year, this year, because I just don't see how that's good for their marketing. You have to keep up the excitement. You have to do something.
I agree. They might announce something for next year, but they might announce it in a direct, maybe in October.
September direct is usually right.
September or maybe so. Like, there is the next 2D Metroid. It's on the horizon.
Do you think that's a 2026, 2027 title? I personally kind of, I mean, I feel like
2027.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's been enough time, but Metroid Prime 4 just came out. And I mean, in my predictions, I just kind of felt like something's got to give, and I just don't think it would come out this year. It seems like that would wait a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. But also, I think Switch 2 Enhanced Edition of Metroid Prime Remastered will come out.
In 2027 or this year?
This year.
That's
the end.
So would it be a Switch 2 edition or just a free upgrade?
That's the real question, isn't it?
Because there's
they might charge for it, but I would think that they would charge for it if they're doing like 120 FPS and 4K and mouse controls and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's not many new content, right?
Yeah, there won't be any new content, and people are like, oh, will there be DLC for Metroid Prime 4? I highly doubt it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm usually on the DLC train for most Nintendo games, but Prime 4, I mean, I think they're just moving on to Prime 5. I think they're like, hey, this is it. Maybe there'll be some patches. Best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, if you want DLC for Prime 4, it's
Boss Rush.
Exactly like what they did with Dread. And that to me still seems unlikely. But I mean, I'll take it because the bosses in Prime 4 are great. So,
I also think you'll see some Mario Kart World DLC this year.
Yeah.
You'll see.
That'd be nice.
About time.
I think you'll see Donkey Kong Bonanza representation. I think you'll see Void Kong.
More.
I think you'll see
in Mario Kart World. Yeah.
In Mario Kart World,
Yeah.
you'll see Donkey Kong Bonanza, Void Kong, King K. Rool, whoever.
Diddy Kong's still in the game.
Diddy Kong,
Diddy Kong.
Dixie Kong, maybe, I don't know.
Cranky Kong, yeah.
You'll see. You could honestly.
Rambi Kart.
I think you'll
Violas.
see. I think you'll see Samus and Viola in the game. If they essentially did what they did with Mario Kart 8, where they had a DLC that's more Nintendo Kart, so to speak. I think that would be really cool. Because it's like cross promotion.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. The only reason I have to be skeptical about that is if you look at the Ask Developer interview for Mario Kart World, they talk about how their focus is to be very Mario Universe centric this time. But that's just for the base game.
Yeah, that's my thinking, just for the base game.
Yeah.
Because from a marketing standpoint, I think it's brilliant. Like Mario Kart is their biggest IP.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, right? So it makes sense to utilize it to market other franchises.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's announced in the next Direct. I think there's a lot of benefit to have like that big game that has continued updates. If it's not Mario, I mean, it was Booster Course Pass towards the end of Switch 1, but before that, it was a Smash Bros. Fighters Pass, right? I think if you're not going to announce some kind of Smash content soon, you definitely got to bring out that Mario Kart World Expansion Pass. And be like, hey, we're going to do this for a year or two, and just something. So there needs to be like that thing where like, oh, okay, so what's the next update? Like that conversation that's happening between directs, and then every direct there's some sort of, oh, this is it. This is the next wave. This is the next Mario Kart World Island expansion or something. Like, I think that'll benefit them. And hopefully by the time that runs its course, then they're like, okay, here's Smash, and then I
think Smash, I don't think you'll see till like 2028.
What if they do a Switch 2 edition with a Volume 3 Fighters Pass? I guess they wouldn't. It would just come out all at once, though. It wouldn't be repeated updates.
Yeah, I don't see them doing a Switch 2 edition of Smash Brothers personally. Sakurai seems to be very against that sort of stuff. He would rather just make a new Smash. I mean, I get it, but also the other problem is you don't want to cannibalize your own series, right? If they add too much to Smash Brothers, then what's the appeal of the new one?
Maybe there is not a new one for a long time.
Maybe, but like Smash Brothers still sells. I mean, Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart World are quite different.
Yeah.
And I feel like they had to do that, right? Because they're like, well, there's a lot of backwards compatibility. Why are people going to upgrade?
But, they also were thinking about doing that for Mario Kart World from the beginning. They didn't necessarily think it was going to take 8 years. So
no, I'm sure
they hadn't. Which actually, I would say goes more into your argument, because they probably intended to have it come out mid-generation, which would have allowed it to coexist. So,
so I mean, I don't know. It's a very hard thing with Smash because you don't want to change the fundamentals of the game and what it is, right? And I think for the most part, people just want more characters.
Yeah,
that's
Fighters Pass Volume 3. Let's go.
Well,
like
yeah.
Give us Silex. That thing
Silex,
he's a shoo-in, by the way.
Ravenbeak. I mean, and also from the third-party front, we're getting to the point where it's like, how many mic drop characters do you have left?
What if we get a Dust? I could see a Dust Bloods character making into Smash Brothers. That makes so much sense. Yeah, that to me that makes a lot of sense. There's got to be something I don't like. There always is. Maybe there's some
another Fire Emblem character.
I was thinking something from Tomodachi Life, or I don't know what, but
yeah. I hope to see Doomslayer, and and it's well overdue.
Leon S. Kennedy.
Ooh, yeah, definitely.
Yep, I'd be down for that.
I mean, Resident Evil deserves representation in Smash Bros.
100%, man. And Leon is like the most popular character, so.
Yeah, and I mean, it's harder to put in a character from Monster Hunter. They've already put in the Rathalos assist trophy and boss, right? Like, I don't know if you can really do. I mean, you could do a character, but it wouldn't. There's not. Monster Hunter doesn't have like. It just you putting in just like the avatar doesn't really resonate as much. I think a character with a name and a story that brings in a fandom, right? So if I had to pick another Capcom rep, Leon just kind of feels like to make them. I mean, we already have Mega Man, so
Yeah, Leon and Capcom and Nintendo are on good terms. I also think Master Chief is a high probability. If Halo if the
Master Chief
Halo
would be
remake
amazing.
comes to Switch 2, then yeah, Master Chief
Yeah,
makes
Spyro,
sense.
Crash, I think are candidates.
Possibly. Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to think who else on the third party front.
Tomb Raider, Lara Croft.
Yeah, but those aren't mic drop characters, right?
Oh, you know who would be a mic drop character? Alloy.
Oh yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
mic drop.
that'd be
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially if Horizon Zero Dawn comes to Switch.
It won't happen though.
No.
No way will that happen. Yep. Sony aren't going to promote their competitor. They're just not going to do it.
Well, you're probably right. Or I mean,
I asked Sean Layden
Yeah.
too. I asked
Yeah.
Sean Layden when I interviewed him,
yeah.
and he was just like, "No,
Yeah.
it won't happen."
It's just when you see the Lego version, it does get you thinking. And then Sony is putting some games on their platforms, and Horizon's been out for many years already, right? I'm not talking about getting the sequel, but
Well, how you have to look at it is like people are like, "Oh, a Sony game's going to be day and date on PC," and I'm like, I don't think that will ever happen. The whole idea is for Sony to get people to buy into their ecosystem, right? So,
Yeah.
and I spoke with Sean Layden about this because he was the one that pushed for Sony games to be on PC. But the whole idea was like after a year that a game's been released, there's a major drop off in sales, right? So you're no longer cannibalizing your platform. And the way he put it was like you have to meet gamers where they are. So there will be a number of gamers on PC, for example, that only play on PC. There will be a number of gamers that only play on Nintendo consoles, although there are a number that have 2 or more. So it is possible, but I mean, if you were to see a Sony game on a Nintendo console, it would be well after the game's been truly out and
Yeah.
made as much money as it possibly could.
Well, Sony can't do what like Microsoft can do because they are constrained to their platform. They need their platform to sell to make money. Whereas Microsoft, I mean, if they sell games on Windows, they make money there. They own these huge studios and they make money anywhere that they sell these games. Whereas with Sony, it's like they make a lot more money if they just sell on their platform, and they don't really have other businesses to back up their cash. Like PlayStation is their biggest revenue by a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And obviously people are playing online. They're paying for online.
Yeah.
Every time somebody buys a third-party game, and it's the same for Nintendo platforms as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
they get
Nintendo's in
30%
the same
of the revenue.
situation.
Yeah, so... And if Sony's putting a game on Nintendo hardware and Nintendo's not doing the same, it kind of defeats the purpose. So I don't think you'll ever see Sony games in Smash Brothers.
yeah, I'll just say that if Alloy would to come to Smash, there's no way Nintendo would be like, yeah, sure. There would have to be a give and take. So,
Yeah, 100%.
If Horizon ever came to Smash, I think it would have to be like a deal like that. We're like, sure, we'll advertise your series on Smash, but you better let us have the OG game on our platform. Otherwise, it doesn't, But I mean, it probably won't happen. Like, to be frank,
No,
like,
I don't think it'll happen.
Like
I mean,
I brought up Alloy mostly as a joke, But I don't want to say it's impossible. I just think it's very unlikely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And people forget. I mean, Nintendo's doing very well, but PlayStation's doing very well. Sony's doing very well, right? And PlayStation is like the default platform for most of Europe. Not all of Europe, but most of Europe.
Yeah. They're very big over there.
Yeah, it's huge. Primarily because of FIFA, Call of Duty,
Right.
GTA. They're like the big 3, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. I think we should maybe wrap up soon.
Yeah.
I do want to get some super chats and some Q&A, but I'll bring up one thing that was touched on earlier, but I kind of want to hone in on. If we're getting Luigi's Mansion 4, we're getting Generation 10 Pokemon, but we're not getting Zelda, we're not getting 3D Mario. There's still got to be something else from Nintendo. And there are some rumors indicating that perhaps Monolith Soft is gearing up for an announcement in the next Nintendo Direct. I brought up earlier as maybe they're possibly working on some sort of Zelda spin-off of some sort that could be its own thing.
Or another Xenoblade.
Could be another Xenoblade. I think what they're working on is something new. It's I believe Project Legacy is absolutely real. Question is what project? To me, the question is what is Project Legacy? Whatever that is, I think there's a really good chance we see that this year. Maybe it doesn't come out this year because it did come out with Xenoblade X early last year, but that wasn't that ambitious of a project.
No.
This they've been supposedly working on for 8 years. So this could be the year for that. That would be huge. So it might be the Monolith Soft title that finally hits like that other threshold of sales. It goes past the 3 million mark or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean that's we don't know. Like even if it could be really cool and it sells 1 million in the first 3 months, but then it has evergreen sales for years, right?
Hang on, Tomodachi Life comes out this year, hey?
Yes, that's
coming out.
Yeah.
I think it's releasing in March.
I have no idea what the hell that game is about. Like I watched the trailer and I'm like, this is so weird. But apparently
that's what the game is
massive.
about. It's about being weird.
Yeah. Straight up bizarre.
Yes.
But I know it's huge in Japan.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's releasing in spring. So this is Nintendo's current lineup. Mario, so they have the Switch 2 editions of Animal Crossing coming out this month. Mario Wonder in spring. In terms of new games, Tennis Fever in February, Pokopia in March, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream in spring, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book also in the spring. Which, by the way, we talked about there being a new Yoshi game because of the Galaxy movie and Yoshi being in there. This whole cross-promotional thing, Nintendo, it's so obvious. Anyway, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, it's just 2026. Rhythm Heaven, 2026. This is according to Nintendo's official press page, but they don't have Splatoon Raiders listed. That's just because they haven't given us a release time. That's probably coming out this year. Like, I'd be shocked if a spin-off title announced last year isn't coming out this year. Like, they'd just
Wouldn't
be
make much sense.
the most perplexing announcement ever. So that's already a lot of games. You throw in Luigi's Mansion 4, Gen 10 Pokemon, a Monolith Soft title, some good Switch 2 editions. It would be good. I think Nintendo would still need to announce some big things for at least next year to get people really invested. But I'm not going to give up my prediction. I think it's either 3D Mario or a big Zelda thing this year. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, is there any last expectations before we just close out with some Q&A?
Yeah, I would say I think overall, I think this will be the year of third parties, not the year of Nintendo. Personally, I think on Nintendo's platform specifically.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's where the platform's really going to shine this year. But we'll see. Maybe there'll be some massive mic drop moment, but
yeah. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm just hoping he's wrong because I've already been disappointed by what's coming out for Switch 2, and if it's not better this year, I'm going to be like, what the hell? I mean, it doesn't. I don't need a 3D Mario or a 3D Zelda to come out, but I do like I would be fine with like a Link Between Worlds remake or Luigi's Mansion 4 or something. But I need something to come out this year. I'm happy with the first half of the year, but I need something. And I would do want a tease. If we're not going to get it this year, I need a tease for 3D Zelda and more importantly 3D Mario, because Zelda could be further off.
Hey, if I have Gen 10 Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Dust Bloods, Luigi's Mansion 4, and a new Monolith Soft title with exciting
Monolith Soft
for next
would
title,
be big for me. That would be enough. If there's a new Monolith Soft title, that's enough for me as well.
Yeah.
I need
Eternal Darkness
big.
2. There you go.
Is that a prediction?
I never played Eternal Darkness.
There's that Bluebird Team Project M project that's they have very curious wording for how they're teasing it. I'll actually I still have it up here because I brought it up in a video recently. Let me just share this with everyone for those who haven't seen it. This is from the Bloober teams. I forget how to pronounce his name. Piotr Babino. I hope I didn't butcher that too much, but you have no idea how hard it is for me to not reveal what Project M truly is. But for now, it's still too early to talk about it. We are confident that we'll be able to share the first details very soon, Nintendo Direct. But what I can say is this. Fans of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Limbo, and Eternal Darkness, that's what they conclude with, will immediately feel at home. That said, Project M introduces a bold twist, one that no horror game has ever explored before. This is a vision that could only exist on Nintendo hardware. By the way, so if I'm not mistaken, Project M is a Switch 1 and Switch 2 title. So this is not like only possible Nintendo hardware because the Switch 2 is more powerful, because supposedly it's also coming to Switch 1 last I checked.
I'm curious what that means.
It means that they're working with an IP that Nintendo owns.
Eternal Darkness.
That's essentially what that means.
Because there's no hardware thing that's unique. There's maybe for a console, but there's other mouse controls. What do you have a mouse on? You could plug a mouse into anything, pretty much nowadays, and use that. Motion controls. Yeah, okay, other consoles have that too. It's there's nothing on Nintendo hardware-wise that would be only able to be done on Nintendo, so it has to be the IP.
I've been assuming spiritual successor, not literally successor. But it's already
Darkness.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's, I only say that because they literally mention Eternal Darkness. So if they're developing Eternal Darkness 2, would he be able to even mention that? I don't know. But I mean,
well, maybe he's done it intentionally to try and throw people off. It's he mentioned Eternal Darkness, so that means it won't be Eternal Darkness.
But it actually is Eternal Darkness. Yeah, I mean,
sure.
It's very interesting, to say the least, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see soon enough.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time something's been hyped up a lot, and it's oh, okay, that's fine, but it's not what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
But Bloober Team makes good games, so I'm not
like the Medium I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Chronos the New Dawn.
Yeah.
The Silent Hill remake. They put out some bangers. But anyway, by the way, Kiwi, I know if you have to step off, that's fine.
Yeah. How much longer have we got? Because I will have to step off.
We're just doing Q&A, so if you need to step out early, it's fine. I'm just gonna
probably
do some Q&A for a few minutes.
10 more minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Pokemon fan, been a member for 3 months. Appreciate you. Boo Mini from a super chat earlier in the cast. What Zelda game do you predict gets released in 2026? A new mainline game, a spin-off, or a remake, remaster? We kind of
we've already
went over this. Definitely not open air Zelda. It's either something like a spin-off or remake, remaster, or a combination. It doesn't have to be just one thing, as I will say. I don't know if we really focus on that. They've done a lot for Mario. They have reason to really push Zelda going into the movie. So maybe we should expect multiple Zelda things this year. Maybe it's not one giant Zelda thing, but multiple cool Zelda things, and they tease something bigger for the future.
Sure.
Yeah. Boo Mini, thank you for your super chat. Any chance we get a mini mainline Zelda like Echoes of Wisdom? Any chance?
Sure, but no.
I mean, mini mainline, we just got Echoes of Wisdom 2024. I mean, not a new thing. What Brandon said earlier, a Link Between Worlds remaster, a Twilight Princess thing. I think our best case scenario is what I brought up, a big remake, or Mollensoft has been working on something crazy, but that wouldn't even be mainline. That would be something else. That might be like the Legends of the mainline Pokemon games or something. It's Zelda, but it's also not. Then that's That's just, best case scenario. I wouldn't expect a brand new Zelda this year. 2D or 3D. Spin-offs, they're on the table, though. Attack the Backlog with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, man. Hey, guys. For Reese, is the WTF game a Sony IP? Eye emojis.
No comment.
Is the
I'm sorry.
WTF game a Microsoft IP?
Well, here's the thing. I'll put it to you like this. If I was to say it wasn't a Sony IP, then that could potentially get me in trouble. Right? And if I say no, then that narrows things down as well, which also kind of gets me in trouble. So that's kind of why I'm saying no comment.
So you also say no comment for Microsoft IP.
Well, Microsoft are already releasing games on Switch too.
Okay.
But would okay, let me put it to you this way. What Microsoft IP on a Nintendo platform would make you be like WTF?
Halo.
Not
Anything
That's
else?
pretty much it. I don't think. I mean, maybe Forza, but I'm not a. Actually, I'd be pretty happy with Fable coming over. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
I don't expect it. I mean, that's the thing. I don't expect it. That's why it's a WTF, I guess. But I mean, I guess with Microsoft, it almost feels like a lot of it's kind of like an eventuality. To your point, if you look at it from in that regard, maybe nothing's a WTF if it's coming from Microsoft.
Well, I don't think every single Microsoft game is coming to Switch 2. As far as I'm aware, I think they're having problems with Forza, for example, because of the triggers.
Yeah.
I play on the GameCube controller.
With this one
so
trigger.
I don't know if that will come over. But we'll see in due time. I mean, I'm deliberately being coy with the WTF because
I don't want you to get.
I don't want to get into trouble,
No,
and I don't want to
that's
get
fine,
anyone fired too.
No.
So,
Yeah.
But Attack the Backlog has always been cheeky like this, trying to find out details.
Yeah.
But I love him to death, so it's all good.
Yeah. All right, coming to the live chat. Sketches of Harmony. I just want Recore. That'd be cool. Tall Show, Grounded, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. Yeah, that would be a nice enhancement. Tony to Expert. Not gonna lie, this podcast lower my 2026 expectations for Nintendo. However, a new Monolith game would be gigantic for me if it happens. I just want to say we don't know everything that's going on, right? Something that I'll say that there have been times where events have been hyped up and end up being underwhelming, and there have been times where events have been under hyped up. They've been like people have tried to lower expectations, and they've been actually very whelming. It goes both ways. I remember the June Nintendo Direct last year. Remember Pyoro? Yeah, yeah, the red bird that would always leak Nintendo announcements ahead of them being announced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he had a pretty significant history of leaking things right before announcement from Nintendo.
Right.
Like things you would not think, and it turned out he just had access to their online website backend.
Yeah,
somehow.
that's right.
Yeah. But people grew to trust him significantly because of the, over the course of 9 months, he leaked a lot of things about Nintendo Direct, first party stuff, right? And he was telling people to not be excited with the June Nintendo Direct of 2024. And as it turned out, it was one of the best directs in many years because he didn't know squat, but he pretended like he did. So, he made an assumption based off what he knew, and he assumed what he knew was pretty much everything. And so I bring that up just to say that we don't know what Nintendo's actual plan is, and there's also a good chance Nintendo's plan is not even fully finalized yet. So I would
That's a valid point.
I would not. I think you just going into things with an open mind is probably the best way to go about it. And maybe that's tricky, right? Like, listen, I had the Metroid Prime 4, and I know some people were very excited for Metroid Prime 4, and it didn't meet their expectations. But I played Metroid Prime 4, and I was still able to look at it for what it was, and enjoyed it for what it was. You know, like I know it's not a perfect game, but I still enjoyed it.
That's the thing with getting hyped up for games. You risk disappointment, right? As much as I try to, where possible, I always try and not hype things up too much. Because if you're if you're up here, you're on cloud 9, and then it doesn't meet that expectation, you come crashing down in the disappointment, depending on what it is. I mean, you can always, sometimes go into a state of depression if you're not careful, depending on how big the excitement is to the disappointment, because the crash is big. Yeah. I mean, I imagine stay away from the Metroid subreddit. You'd think that somebody died.
You could just say stay away from Reddit.
I think the internet
in general.
The internet, like it's just there's just social media commentary and conversations online are not representative of how the masses truly feel. It's
100%.
It's toxic and misleading. I'm not, and that's not me saying that Metroid Prime 4 isn't deserving of criticism. That's not me saying it's perfect either. But it's not I don't want to spoil any things about Stranger Things, for example. And I'm not trying to say Stranger Things is perfect, but it's a great example of, like, I watched that entire series. I saw people make a lot of complaints and criticisms. I'm not here trying to say it's the best show of all time, but also the online dialogue about it, I think, is also not really an appropriate representation of how good the show actually was. So I just think online dialogue in general is just not a good indicator of what is the truth.
Yeah, and I think specifically with online, especially with Reddit, right? Because you can very much get into a bit of an echo chamber. Like the Zelda subreddit hate Breath of the Wild and hate Tears of the Kingdom, right? Which is like absurd, because in the grand scheme of things, they're beloved. They've sold huge amounts, right? So I think it's important, and I'll say this to anybody, is like if you go on the internet and stuff, just make sure that you touch grass from time to time, and speak with people who are outside your little echo chamber, because it's very, very easy, especially these days, to fall into that trap and get closed off, and that's in regards to anything. Yeah,
for sure. But just going back to the chat here, Boomini asks, "Hey Andres, how are you liking the Metroid Prime hardcover book?" I'm not close to the headset. It won't let me reach.
I'm gonna have to get going, guys.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the invite.
Thanks
Glad
for
I was
coming.
able to make it.
Thanks for being part of my podcast restart.
Hey,
yeah.
No, I appreciate the invite as always. But hope you guys had a great holiday period, and here's to a great 2026.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, man.
Okay. Cool.
See you soon.
See you,
guys.
chat.
Check out his channel.
See ya.
Link in the description below. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. I love this thing. It's great. It's so good. The legend. There he is. Tanabe-san. But, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to... I really like this book, though. The art is so high quality. There's some really good lines here. It's a beautiful... I think it's one of the best, like, art books Nintendo's ever put out. 10 out of 10.
I love Nintendo's art books. They're always super high quality. The artwork is always extremely high resolution. It's just beautiful, and the material, like, it's very durable. Like, you don't feel like it's gonna, like, rip the pages or anything, or like mess up the art. Like, it just holds up, and it's it's just, man, they're always a thing of beauty. I have almost all of the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, or not Definitive, Xenoblade Chronicles in general. I mean, special editions. They came with art books, and I have all of the ones except for 3, I believe.
Man, those are cool too. Yeah. Connor here asked me, can you believe that this year is a Kirby anime Kirby Right Back at You 25th anniversary? And do you think Nintendo could do something for the Kirby anime show, Kirby Right Back at You?
There's a Kirby anime show?
There was a Kirby show. I don't have much expectations. I mean, I do think Nintendo should continue to put out programs for their show. That was a thing from then. I don't think Nintendo's going to do anything about that particular show because they start a new Kirby show, totally on the table. I think Nintendo at some point or another is going to find some kind of show or movie or series for most of their IP. When those will happen, that's kind of hard for me to gauge, but they're coming. Yeah, I mean, like for example, I think there's probably a Donkey Kong movie that's been rumored.
That makes sense.
I actually would not be surprised if the end of the Mario Galaxy movie has a teaser including Donkey Kong, which very much how like there was a Yoshi egg at the end of the first Mario movie teasing Mario Galaxy, the Mario Galaxy movie that we're about to get soon. Donkey Kong has not been announced to be in this movie, and some people who watched the first one's probably going to be scratching their heads. I think that's because, well, they have their own plan for him, and they may even tease that at the very end of the movie. Or maybe they're going to do something else, and it's not Donkey Kong, and they tease Luigi's Mansion movie, and they're like, hey, here's Luigi's Mansion 4. Like, one or the other. It's
that
one or
incredible.
The Mario Galaxy movie teaser is going to be about Donkey Kong or Luigi's Mansion. One or the other, in my opinion. Yeah. But
I'd be hyped for either one.
Me too. Let's see. I'm just kind of looking through the chat here. Connor, will I ever do a review on Kirby Air Riders? I don't want to promise that. I almost did a review for Hyrule Warriors, but I think if I did a review for Hyrule Warriors, people would be very mad.
Potentially.
I might do a review for Hyrule. The thing is, I kind of feel like I missed the boat, you know? Like, if I don't do a review somewhat after the game, like, you know, within a few weeks after the game comes out, I feel like most people are not going to care. I know you do see videos online on YouTube of, like, reviews coming out years later or months later, but those are usually for, like, really popular games. And I feel like I would have to have a very strong opinion on the game for me to feel like it's worth making a video about something if it's no longer like relevant from a time perspective, you know, if that makes any sense.
Right.
And so to speak to my point about Kirby Air Riders, with Kirby Air Riders, I haven't bought the game yet. I'm trying to save money right now. I haven't been able to spend as much money as I would have liked. So I haven't purchased the game. And when I do eventually buy the game, I don't think it's going to be, I mean, I think it's already too late to do a Kirby Air Riders review. And when I do eventually do, I just don't think it's going to be relevant. Will I share my thoughts on it in like a podcast like this? I could do that. I did play the online test though, and I thought the online test was good. If that's anything for you. So yeah, I would have to play the game, and I would have to develop an opinion that I think is worth making a whole video about, that people would find interesting. Like, there had to be something about the game that I would be like, oh my god, I need to say this, right? Like, and I don't know, like about Hyrule Warriors, just to, I guess, share my thoughts on this. I thought about doing a review for it, but there were just other things for me to talk about in December, so I never got around to it. Also, I didn't have as much time as I wanted in December, so there's that. But I liked Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. It was a good game, but I do not think it was a great game. I actually kind of wanted a rush to the end. I did not like the variety of environments. I didn't feel like the areas were fun to explore. In Age of Calamity, I had the first Warriors game on Switch. Oh, it's technically there was a Hyrule Warriors, right? There was Hyrule's Definitive Edition,
right?
But in terms of the the Warriors game based off Breath of the Wild, that one, Age of Calamity, I really enjoyed exploring that world because we could see like the past of Hyrule. We could explore Castletown before it was destroyed, for example. We could explore the Great Plateau before it was destroyed, see the steps, the entrance to the plateau. We got to see things like that. And so there's a lot more about Age of Calamity that appealed to my curiosity as a fan of the Zelda series. And so that made exploring that game interesting. I don't feel that with Age of Imprisonment. I think part of it's because we've kind of seen so much about this era of Zelda already. And I don't think they really designed too many unique, interesting environments in Age of Imprisonment. A lot of them were just like blood red, and it didn't inspire. The environments didn't inspire much for me. So from an exploration perspective, it wasn't that interesting. From a story perspective, it was solid, but it was mostly story that we could kind of fill in the gaps on. There were characters I wish they expanded upon more so, and they didn't. The Calamo mysterious construct stuff, that part was good. It didn't end in the way I thought it would, but it was still good. So I liked that. Combat was good. But ultimately, like, you know, I just, some people will argue Age of Imprisonment is like the best game that came out. It's not, that's not even close for me. It's just a fine game. I played through it to completion, and that's it. I don't really feel like going back. Fun combat. I was somewhat interested in some of the characters, but it wasn't like a lot. So I wasn't super into like just figuring everything else there is about the game. So
right,
yeah. That's it. It's not that. That's all I have to say about the game. It's not this incredible thing. It's a spin-off title. That's it. Yeah, I have some ads here. Boomini asked me, do you think we'll get an Age of Imprisonment DLC this year? There's already been some free updates. Typically, the Warriors games do get DLC. And I will say, speaking on my comment about how I felt like some characters they didn't really do too much on, but it felt like it was set up for them to do much on. There's room for DLC. The Kotaka and Koeme, the attendants to Ganondorf, like there's so much material there. They have dialogue. They make important they take important actions and decisions in the story of Age of Imprisonment, but they're not even named. We know they're Kotaka and Koeme, but they're not even named. They're not there's a lot that could be there. They just decided not to do for whatever reason. I feel like another thing, just to continue my complaints, but also to speak to the idea of there being DLC, like we didn't get that much moments with Ganondorf. Like I thought we would learn a lot more about Ganondorf during that period, and we didn't. And so that's another thing about the story. Like there was already kind of like they already had an issue going at Age of Imprisonment because a lot of the mystique and mystery about this universe of Zelda has been kind of lost, given that we've already had several games on it already. And so they didn't create that much variety to the environments. They didn't give me that much reason to explore. And then with the story where there are some kind of like questions, they didn't really do that much with them. So, you know, the story overall, I felt like there's a lot left to be desired. Most of it was I kind of already knew. And yeah, so I think I've already very much explained why the game is only just good to me and it's not great. That said, there is a lot of material for a DLC telling more story about Ganondorf and the witches Kotaka and Koeme. They could do more with that, right? They could probably do another side quest on Calamo and the Mysterio. Like, there's plenty of material to do DLC if they wanted to, and usually Warriors games have them. Haven't announced it yet, but maybe that's announced in the next Direct. So, yeah, definitely a strong chance. Yeah. Scrolling through the chat. I feel like I'm going to wrap things up in like 5 minutes, guys. So if there's any final things you want me to talk about or ask, put it out there now because I'm wrapping up. Jay Biggs says no one. I didn't even know you were gone, Brandon.
Yeah, my app crashed for some reason.
Oh, okay. That's all right. Anyway, Jay Biggs here says no one can change my opinion of Metroid Prime 4. It is my 2025 game of the year. It's also my personal game of the year. I think Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World are also up there for me.
Sure.
But I think I'm lower on Donkey Kong Bonanza than most other people. I think it's a very good game, and I think it deserves all the praise it's gotten. Well, most of the praise it's gotten. I do not think it's necessarily better than Mario Odyssey. Some people feel it is. I do not. But I also don't think it should be compared to Mario Odyssey. I think it's Donkey Kong. It's not Mario. And to that end, while they did put in a lot of aesthetics and elements to make it feel very Donkey Kong, there's something about Bonanza that I feel like it could be more Donkey Kong, if that makes any sense. There's something, I don't think it's Donkey Kong enough. But on the flip side, I mean, I also say that I remember talking about how they could take the Odyssey engine and make a more physical, brutish version, and that would be a great Donkey Kong game, which is literally what they did for Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'm really nitpicking here, right? But I think I would have wanted to see a little bit more jungle exploration, swinging from vine to vine and stuff like that.
Yeah. It would have been a very different game, but they could have made a very fun platformer focused on like verticality and like climbing through the trees and swinging on vines and stuff.
I also
go
think
that angle.
Yeah, that it's like a different direction, right?
Yeah, completely different direction.
I think also maybe I really enjoy the destruction, but I wonder if maybe they could have. I don't want them to scale it back, but I guess I just want a little bit more. I basically I think I want my Donkey Kong swinging from vine to vine. I'm nitpicking here. The game's really good. I'm gonna play it again. Like, it's a very good game. It's definitely like a 9 out of 10 kind of game. You know, definitely is a game of the year nominee kind of game. Yeah. I think Donkey Kong's more polished than Metroid Prime 4, but just in terms of like how the game has hit me, and maybe there's some recency bias in there. I gotta acknowledge that too. That's why I try to usually say that, like, I don't think it's been enough time for me to make a proper assessment on a game until it's been enough time. But I don't know, Metroid Prime 4, like, I think the music and the art style just really hit me well. I enjoy the gameplay. Like, the combat to me is really fun. I enjoy exploring the world. Because I am really into like analyzing Metroid lore and coming up with theories, like I investigate and look at every little detail in the game, right? And so there's a lot there. I mean, the thing is, I'm like it for Donkey Kong too. But
right,
yeah. Just Metroid just at least how I feel currently. Maybe 3 months from now, I'll feel a little bit differently. It could be recency bias, but right now, I feel like Metroid Prime 4 has been my most enjoyed game of 2025. Although I'll also say I speak up Mario. I mean, I also think Mario Kart World is probably the game that will stand the test of time the best, just because it's going to be continually iterated upon. And I probably will continue to play Mario Kart World for years to come.
I mean, it's just the easiest game to just pick up and keep playing.
Yeah,
I think like, just the nature of it.
I'm gonna play the game with my brother and my friends and probably my nephew and niece when they're born a couple of years from now. Like, they're gonna be, spoiler, I'm gonna become an uncle in a couple months. But
let's go.
But you know,
You'll
I'm
finally
just saying,
become unk like me.
I'm gonna probably play Mario Kart with them once they can start like playing games, you know, like so. Yeah, but yeah, Prime 4, as I currently feel, is my favorite game of 2025.
I have not played enough games this year to definitively say what my game of the year or last year, I mean, what my game of the year 2025 is. I suspect if I had gone the time to play it, it would have been Expedition 33, probably.
I want to pick that up.
But we will know.
Yeah, I want to play that soon. Yeah, I'm speaking on just Nintendo, but I also mostly played Nintendo. So, I mean, basically, my Nintendo game of the year is my game of the year.
Yeah.
But if
I mean,
I
I've
had played
played
Expedition
Mario Kart
33,
and
I'm not
Donkey Kong
sure.
and Prime 4, just not all the way through. But I played them all. Mainly Donkey Kong and Mario Kart for several hours. Prime only a little bit.
Checking with the chat here, just seeing people's opinions. Boo Mini, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Music is so good. Kick It Smooth, my favorite games I played on my Switch this year are Silk Song and Kinetsugami Path of the Goddess. I have not played Path of the Goddess, but I do have Silk Song. I did enjoy it, but I need to get back to it.
I liked Hollow Knight, but I also got very impatient with some of the mechanics in that game. So I'm curious how I would feel. I am not sure if I'm going to play Silk Song or not. Those aren't necessarily my favorite genre of games, although I see that they are very high quality ones.
Yeah. Sketches of Harmony here. I had to blitz through the Donkey Kong main game to make sure I finished it. I ended up exploring too much and lost momentum. Maybe for me with Bonanza, I also felt like I took my time with Bonanza. Like I took a really long time. And so maybe that's a pacing issue. I mean, it kind of depends on how you play it. Like, I mean, I guess you could argue it's the same issue with Prime 4 in a way, because the way I played Metroid Prime, I had no issue with the ending. Like I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready already. I don't have to do anything. I'm good, you know. But with Donkey Kong, because there's a little bit like of a narrative, you kind of want to race through to the end. But I'm also like a completionist, so I kind of want to like get everything.
Right.
So I'm taking a long time in each area, even though I kind of have like this desire to push forward. And so because I might have made the experience worse for me by taking too long. So it might be on me for Donkey Kong Bonanza not being my game of the year. I didn't play it right. But I don't think it's a fair thing, right? I think, games should, it's up to the designers to position to make the game a certain way, to steer you in a certain way or not, and give you that freedom to make it rewarding depending on what you do. But also everyone has their own takes and perspectives, and they're gonna go at things in different ways. Like you can't make everyone happy, right?
No.
And sometimes when you play something, watch, experience something, it's different depending on the time you're at in your life and what you're going through.
True.
There are times I've played certain games or watched certain shows or tried, and I kind of felt like it was only okay. It didn't continue, but then I go back to it later. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Why didn't I like it more before? Probably just because at that point at that time in my life, I just wasn't in the mood to really dive in, or it just didn't hit me in the right way for whatever reason. So there's a lot of things I think go into what affects someone's experience, which ultimately will impact their opinion of a game or whatever it is. Another reason why I think scores are arbitrary, because you feel it's a 7 today, you might not feel that way next month when it's a 9, right? Or it's a 5. Like
sometimes I sit on things and I'm like, I enjoyed that in the moment, but now that I think about this more, that is super dumb. Like a lot of shows are like that for me. I'm like, I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but then when I thought about it more after, I'm like, this has so many plot holes.
Yeah. Here Bradley Taylor asks, hey Andres, Nintendo Direct when? January, February, or March? I believe it's happening in February. I was going to ask you if you...
It's almost always February, and I don't think they need to do it any earlier than usual this year, because we already know a lot about spring and the next couple months and stuff, so...
Yeah, I do think we're going to probably get a Mario Galaxy movie trailer, maybe in a Mario Galaxy movie Direct, or maybe they announce like Yoshi in January. The movie's coming out in April, if I'm not mistaken, or is it May?
It's April 3rd.
Thank you. The Zelda movie's in May. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Of 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only know because I looked it up like last night or the night before.
Nice. I was asked, I think RNL asked me earlier, what do I think about the game key card situation?
What's changed?
I don't have a strong opinion about game key cards. I understand a lot of people want to preserve their games. They want to have a physical version, but I also think a lot more people don't care. Like there's a lot more people buying digital games more and more. It's a trend that continues. So inevitably, like physical games just are probably going to phase out or just become not the focus as time progresses, right? So it's kind of like a dying breed, kind of like Blockbuster, right? Like Blockbuster was cool, but
Yeah.
with the advent of streaming, this idea of renting movies and games physical. I mean, there's like GameFly or something, right? But specifically for movies, like
Sure.
because of this shift in our society, that framework doesn't work as well anymore. I mean, even GameStop had faced many challenges because people don't buy as many physical games and go into stores as much. It's not even just about games, like just like with Amazon and deliveries happening all the time, way less people are going into retail stores and merchandising stores because they get what they want online without literally going to the store. So there's less sales in these areas. So it just the changing of the times is kind of phasing these things out, and that includes physical games. And so game key cards are kind of like an interesting compromise.
They're better than nothing. They're better than a code in the box because at least then you can get them heavily discounted, you can get them secondhand, and you can keep. I mean, as far as having the game, like, sure, eventually it's not going to be available, but it will for a long period of time. There's just nothing you can do too much about that. But at the very least, it would suck if there's no physical media because something like the Switch 2, when you only have the eShop and you're locked to one storefront, Nintendo can just set the prices to whatever they want, and you're never going to get it any lower than that.
Yeah.
So, physical media, at least having the game key cards allows it to be something instead of nothing. But it's still it's not great that the game eventually will just be, unavailable to you.
There is a rumor that Nintendo's is providing more versions of cartridges. They're providing smaller versions of cartridges. So
right.
Some companies that have lower budgets, right, that don't want to spend the extra money for a 64 gigabyte cartridge, have just done the game key card because it's just cheaper.
Right.
But with Nintendo now offering, supposedly, it's a rumor, smaller versions of the cartridges, which it also makes sense. It's very easy to believe that they're doing this. These developers have a cheaper option and perhaps a better alternative than a game key card in certain situations. Some devs are still going to offer game key card, right? I mean, look at the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh, yeah.
That game is huge. It's almost 100 gigabytes. For Switch 2 standards, that's a lot.
Huge, yeah.
You kind of need a game key card for that because currently they're only offering 64 gigabyte cartridges. So you kind of don't have a choice. Now, maybe they should try and find a way to make their games smaller. That maybe Nintendo finds ways to compress their games, but Nintendo's not everyone. And then also, even if Nintendo offered like a 128 gigabyte cartridge, that would also be a lot more expensive.
Nintendo also are very smart about not having a lot of highly unique assets that take up a lot of storage, or using like video. There's a lot of things that they can do, like on a fundamental design perspective, like because it's on Switch, Nintendo thinks about these things that other companies don't.
Right, it's a port, so that's true. Like they develop with these in mind for their hardware. Final Fantasy VII was never made for Switch 2 specifically ever, right? So it's a very different thing. Oh, Wilberforce Wooster suggests a dual cartridge release. Oh, it's a joke, but dual cartridge release. But
like getting two discs in one box.
That's what they did for Final Fantasy VII on PS1. It was
at
least
except
2
discs are
might have been more
extremely cheap to produce, and cartridges are the exact opposite.
Yeah, cartridges are expensive. Like
especially ones that need to be near SSD speed. You're essentially selling little mini SSDs in a box.
The thing is, one 64 gigabyte cartridge is expensive. To do two, 2?
Sheesh.
Yeah. Also, they're selling 7 Remake at a discount. Like, it's not a full price game.
Is it 50 or 60? Or less?
I'm looking it up on my Nintendo Store app instead of Google, which is right there. Let me see what happens when I type in remake. Does it come up immediately? No, it doesn't.
Does it come up? You just search Final Fantasy.
Yes. No. Yes. No. I'm not sure. It limited early purchase edition, which I don't think is the right thing. I should have just Googled this. Hey, hold on, it's gonna tell me in a second. It's loading.
I love Nintendo software. They're amazing.
$40.
Hey, 40.
Well, this is literally the website. It just
Good
took me to
deal.
the website. Comes
Great
out
software
January
design.
22nd. $40. Demo's free, by the way. It's a really good demo. I enjoyed it. It
As
inspired
opposed to those paid demos, yes.
And by the way, estimated file size is 87.9 gigabytes.
Sheesh. That's like a third of the internal storage.
I need to buy a micro SD card express. I do. Finally to do it. But the thing is, I looked at some and I'm like, oh, but it's not big enough. I want a bigger size, but the bigger sizes are a lot more expensive.
Pretty expensive, yeah.
Like, I can get enough space, but I don't want to get like 128 or 256 gigabytes because I know I'm going to run through that. I want to get something that I'm going to probably have a lot of wiggle room.
I'm
with.
sure in a couple of years it'll be cheaper, but it is pretty expensive right now for the express cards.
Yeah.
It's more expensive than buying a full fat SSD at the same storage.
Yeah.
By like a lot. Several times more expensive.
Yep. But anyway, I think that's it for tonight. Podcast is back, but it's not necessarily gonna happen every Sunday night, although I feel like Sunday night is probably maybe better to go back to.
Yeah, could be.
But I
Still
was
the
happy
weekend.
I was pleased with the turnout tonight, by the way, guys. Likes and comments, very much appreciated. Thank you all for coming by. Next time I'll probably advertise a little bit more ahead of time. So I'm just saying I'm impressed. I'm happy you guys showed up. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I haven't done the podcast in a while. Might not that many people might show up. We were like averaging concurrently like 150 or something. There's still 130 of you watching after 4 hours almost. 3 hours and 40 minutes. So thank you. Very much appreciate it. The podcast is back, just slightly different and hopefully better. Yeah. So anyways, we'll see you soon. That's it.
Bye, guys.
Bye. I still haven't done an outro though. Tell you what, I'll do this. I'll do this as the outro. Get ready. Get ready.
Oh, yeah.
Watch this. The creator is in the description below. It's really freaking good. Jazz silence.
You can't see, but I'm dancing.
Alright, it's not actually an outro. I just want to leave it on now. But now I'm switching off. See you later, everyone.
Bye, guys.